on the clock and 2 seconds increment every time a player presses the clock.
Yeah, you don't have time to really think at some point because at the start, 3 minutes, that sounds like a decent amount of time. Then you play 10 moves and suddenly you're down to 2. Quickly you're down to 1, and then hopefully you don't get to 0 because if you have 0 seconds remaining, you've lost the game.
Regardless of what the position is on the board. So the clock is the 17th piece in this one.
It certainly is, and we know that James Canty loves to talk about that. You have to use it as a piece, as a weapon, and sometimes you take a risky decision if you have enough time to calculate, but your opponent does not. So for players who are used to getting in time trouble, now they start in time trouble, but it's time trouble for everybody.
It's time trouble for everybody, and it's a lot of fun for everybody as well, Robert, because we've got an exciting giveaway for our viewers today.
Oh, we definitely do. So we're going to get the chat involved, and do you want to tell them what we're doing, or should I?
Well, let's do it together, Robert. Let's bring up our contest of the day and chat. There is a grand prize to be won. One of you will get a 1-year diamond membership of chess.com. And Robert, I'm loving that question.
Oh, please tell us your favorite chess player without telling us your favorite chess player. Use the hashtag TSCI2023. Please get involved. And you know what my answer would be? My answer would be Robert Hess's co-commentator.
Ooh, I love it. Good one, Robert. But that would be super easy to guess as well. So chat, get creative, get funky with your answers. And the best answer to that one will win a 1-year diamond membership. You can tweet us your answers using the hashtag TSCI2023 for that 1-year diamond membership. So tell us your favorite chess player without telling us your favorite chess player. You know what mine would be?
Oh, what?
Subway.
Ooh, I know exactly who you're talking about. That's a good one. This is not a commercial break, but I think I've seen a great one with I won't say his name because I'm not allowed to.
Robert, it's going to be a fun day of chess for us and for chat as well. So get involved with that. And on that note, let's bring up the chess action that's about to come up, the pairings, the matchups at the start of round 1 for the Tata Steel Chess India Blitz. And we will be starting with 10 players fighting it out, 5 of the best top Indian players and 5 speed chess specialists from across the world.
And you see the names here. They have not changed since the Rapid, but the time control has changed. So as you mentioned, we have 5 of the top Indian players taking on 5 of the best international players. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, his name deserves to be in that first spot. Everyone is at 0 out of 0. That's the good news for Pantala Harikrishna, who struggled in the Rapid. So it's a whole new event. Hopefully that means that they can take it in stride and play better chess today.
And that's the kind of chess we want to see. Robert, I'm totally going to throw you under the bus here, put you on a spot. Prediction time. Who is winning the Blitz here?
18 rounds of Blitz, and I had to pick one of these names when everyone is pretty evenly matched. I'm going to go with... Oh, gosh, it's so difficult. I'm going to go with... you go first.
It's a tough pick. And let's also point out, we've got not only the 2021 World Blitz champion, but the 3 times World Blitz champion, Alexander Grischuk, playing, plus the young blood of Indian chess. They are so strong in these fast formats. You know what? What makes this event so unique, Robert, is that whether it was the Rapid or the Blitz, it's such a close field that there isn't a favorite in this one.
I'm going to pick somebody.
Oh my gosh.
It took long enough. I'm going to go with Praggnanandhaa, and it's not just because he's now this household name. The way he plays in these speed chess time patrols, I think, is stellar. I mean, in team events in particular, he has really been able to shine. But I think Pragg, he showed some really good moments in the Rapid, and I think he'll carry that into the Blitz. But now I'm not sure after I said it out loud.
It's a really tough call. And Maxime Vachier-Lagrave has been in form in Kolkata, and how. He's got 2.5 out of 3 on the last day. He is a speed chess specialist. He has been playing such great chess here. I think for many of the fans out there, Maxime would be a big bet. If I had to pick one, I'm putting my money on Arjun. And the reason for that is Arjun performs so well in Kolkata. I know he struggled in the Rapid, but I think he's really looking to step things up in the Blitz. He is super strong when it comes to these shorter time formats. So it's a tough fight. It's going to be a tough one. It could be anyone's tournament. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, Nordebek Abdusattorov, the youngest ever world rapid champion. How do you even pick a favorite here?
I can't, but I know the games are about to begin, so maybe we can get into the playing hall and see those handshakes and those first moves, because it won't just be the first moves. We'll get all the moves in rapid succession because the players will be blitzing out their openings and their whole games.
Let's head over. Let's head over to all the live action that is happening in the National Library. Let's bring up our playing hall as the players have taken their seats and are ready for the action. And there we have it. Robert, in just seconds from now, they're going to blitz out their moves.
We saw the handshakes, and that was synchrony, as I like to see it. Every single handshake at the same time. And look at this. They are off, and they will not stop.
And let's not forget, there's such little time between games here that players really have to have that energy going. And also, let's keep them on our screens. We do have the first moves here coming in, Robert. And let's do a quick opening tour. And look at that. Those are two former World Blitz champion facing each other from the word go.
They also had great performance. Of course, Maxime won the rapid section. Alexander Grishuk did well. He was fighting for that second place up until the last round. And what happened there?
And also notice how both of them have their sleeves pulled up. They're usually really suited up when they're coming to play these games, but you don't want anything coming on the way when you're making a move in these Blitz tournaments.
And often they're wearing dress shirts during longer time patrols. But when it comes to Blitz, it's chaos. And so you just want to move as quickly as possible, and that's what they're doing. This knight went from f6 to e8 to d6. It may wrap around to f5, and it feels like white has all four minor pieces developed, Tanya. Black, only the bishop and the knight, but at least the king is castled.
Yeah, and this is a very classical Carlsbad structure that we see on the queen side. We might potentially see white going ahead with a minority attack with the A and the B pawn going up the board, trying to create a weakness on that c6 square. You pointed out the other plan that white has is to strike in the center. You can look at an advance with the F pawn and then the E pawn moving forward to get more control.
That's what Alexander Grishuk wants to do, and that's why the black rook is on e8, just making sure it's a little more difficult to accomplish. So rook c1 was played. The bishop just slid to f4. This knight wants to hop forward to g3, and all of a sudden this knight may venture up to the king side. So this looks like a fun battle. Any other games catching your eye?
All of them are super fun. Let's quickly do a roundup of what's happening. Let's go to Arjun Aragasi versus Vincent Keimer. Lots of crazy moves have happened, and a queen trade on the board. Arjun versus Vincent already in a queenless middle game.
Okay, I'm bringing up that board, and you have Arjun as your pick to win this competition. Where are the queens? They're kids. They should be attacking each other in Blitz.
But right now, the bishop was attacked, so had to fall back on the board. It is all about who can get the pieces developed quickly. White can start controlling the D line and the B line. And even though the queens are off the board, it's far from completely even.
Oh, it's absolutely anyone's game at this point. White's pawn structure is damaged, isolated pawn here and there. And for black, you only have two pawn islands. They're healthy, but white has an extra piece developed. Also, the king in the center for black has to decide, does it go to the queen side? But as you mentioned, there's an open B file and a bishop staring down the diagonal. I feel like both sides have their chances. I love this bishop on g3 in particular.
Well, we've seen Arjun. Let's go over to your pick for the tournament, Praggnanandhaa, who is playing against Temur, who had a great run in the rapid, finishing in clear second at the end of it. Praggnanandhaa playing with the black pieces. Temur starts with white, and wow, that is a fire position.
We just saw the Alpha 0 h5, likely h4 coming, and queen c3 was played. The engine hates it. Knight to e2, pardon me, protecting the queen is f2.
Don't take it. Rook f1 was queen trap. Queen, and maybe we can quickly, but he does walk into a big blunder.
Yes, let's quickly show that queen takes f2 would have been a blunder for black because rook f1 traps queen. Great spot by you. But instead we saw queen swap and knight b3 winning in exchange. So my pick to win the tournament, off to a pretty good start.
But what a shocking one-move blunder there by Raja.
Yes, and that's what happens in Blitz chess. You don't have time to calculate. You're simply trying to swap queens. And here, at least for Rajabov, he's trying to create chaos in the center. But I do believe that Pragg has everything under control. He can even just slide a rook to d8, and he just said takes on d5. Don't fall into a fork of your own. That would not be good.
Ooh, yeah, you've got to keep everything protected right now. Up an entire exchange, no extra pawns for white. What Raja wants to do is put that light squared bishop on c4, try and get some activity. And Pragg, meanwhile, walks away from any forks. He wants to trade as many pieces as possible. That bishop will slide into c6 next.
It can do it right now, take control of this open D file, and white does not want to trade pieces. Even if this costs black this pawn on h5, that doesn't matter. Without rooks on the board, the black rooks will stream in and start attacking all of white's weaknesses on the queen side. So this looks great for Praggnanandhaa. He has excellent winning chances. He should secure victory.
It looks like Pragg is. He goes bishop to e8. Makes a lot of sense. You want to trade off the pieces. He doesn't even give the h5 pawn. Continues to play fast. Pragg in driver's seat in this one. Let's head over to the all-Indian clash between Vidit and Hari Krishna. For Hari, it was a disappointing rapid.
It was, but he hopes the blitz is better. And here in the first game, Vidit has the white pieces, and Vidit also has an extra pawn. It took me a bit to do the math, but there's an extra e-pawn, though black has this bishop, but that white knight can steal it. So this feels like a position where Vidit, as long as he's careful, as long as he doesn't blunder something on f2, rook d1, for example, would be a fatal blunder.
Very nicely pointed out, because black can trade and pick up on f2, and then you're just stuck with an overloaded queen there. He does move the rook. I got a bit scared there because I saw his hand move towards the rook, but he brings it to the c1 square. Is he also looking at perhaps a queenside pawn advance with a4, a5 coming in just to dislodge that bishop on b6?
He can do that. He can bring his rook up to c2 just to overprotect this pawn on f2. And you mentioned a queenside pawn march with the bishop there. It's more tempting, but that creates other weaknesses, namely the c3 pawn. So Vidit, if he's really down to 36 seconds, he needs to hurry it up.
He keeps everything defended. Rook c2 played there. Robert, hot action on the Grischuk Maxim board. Let's quickly go over there because Black's king is out in the open.
And Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, he was in danger against Vidit, but he lost 0 games in the rapid. He may lose his first blitz game here. White's not even down any material. I would have thought that white has sacrificed a piece for this attack, but instead white just went pawn grabbing. Black has 5 pawns and white has 7 pawns. White's actually up.
White has extra material and all the compensation in the position. White's the one with the initiative and the attack. Maxim has to find a way to swindle, but he has done it before in this tournament.
He has against Vidit Gujrathi, and that catapulted him to the top of the leaderboard, and he did not look back. Queen takes f6. This knight cannot be captured. The king is in the corner. e3 is loose. So there are some tactics that Grischuk needs to be careful about, and he does simply defend all of his pieces.
And the g4 knight right now isn't hanging, but white can also look at just sliding the king away from that pin, trying to force black into retreating with the pieces. And Maxim Vachier-Lagrave down to under 20 seconds.
He knows that knight can't retreat, so king g1 is actually a winning threat for white. The knight on g4 is trapped, nowhere to go. And if you make attacking moves like rook g8, still the king slides over. I would be worried for Maxim. He's down to 5 seconds. He makes a quick move, queen h4, but the eval bar went all the way up for white, so there might be a winning move on the spot.
And I really like the idea of just sliding with the king, but he chooses the move of pushing the pawn up to e4, gaining more space. Now you have to just watch out with the rook and the queen lined up. The knight on g3 can come under fire, and with just seconds on the clock, anything can happen. He pins the queen. The black knight cannot move.
Oh, and rook f6 hitting the queen, but the queen, where can it slide back? Because this knight is loose. He instead moves the knight forward, and now this knight was hanging, so the rook comes to g8 Tanya. This looks messy, but after king g1 at long last, that might just win the piece.
I think you have to do it, and now is a great time. As you said, the knight can't move, the queen on h4 hangs, king g1, and then you're just simply picking up an extra piece.
And we should remind everybody that Alexander Grischuk is a 3-time World Blitz champion. He is not going to be afraid of anything, and look at this. He just pins and wins this knight, but great resources by Maxim. He's stealing the knight in the center.
So he's not down a piece, so the game continues. Watch out for that rook on h6. It was attack. You don't have the time to pick that up. And with that, Alexander Grischuk takes the win. Let's quickly switch over to the live action. Gukesh versus Nodebek is where we need to go. Players playing on seconds here.
And there's a nasty pin. That's why the king went up to f2. So the second game that we've just looked at where the king avoids a pin. But there is an attack that black is going after the white king. And Gukesh brings his king up to f3. It's safe on the light squares. Black only has a dark square bishop.
And you got 2 extra pawns with white. It's all about stabilizing your king safety. And now Gukesh is looking at creating a passer to convert that material advantage.
And he had to take with the king. If he took with the queen, queen f1 would have delivered a big check against it. So he wins king of the hill. This is regular chess, though. He's going to keep putting pieces in the light squares to shield his king.
I like that. You give a check, the diagonal check with the queen, your pawn comes to the rescue. So Nodebek again trying to look for those tricks. And let's remind everyone, huge rivalry between these two players, which started at the 2022 Chess Olympiad. The d-pawn marching down the board, and it looks like Gukesh is about to win.
He is, but this knight on d3 is always needing a defender, and he goes g5. He wants to open up this black king and then start pushing this pawn at the board. He has tactics that will win the bishop on d6.
And he's also looking at getting his own king to g4, where you don't have the checks and you start picking up black's pawns as well.
Great point and great find, and he takes the pawn back on g5. And now the question is, where does the king go? It is really out in the open.
Wow, but white does have 2 extra pawns, and with no checks in the position, it is way better, and he's going for checkmate. He wants to checkmate black's king.
He's using his king as a weapon. The black king will run away. King d8, king c8, keep going this way, but knight e5 on the queen's side. Is there mate? There's mate in 2. He
Queen
finds
f7
it.
is checkmate, and that's it. Handshakes, game over.
What a find by Gukesh. He wins thanks to his king, and he is the king of at least of this game. Any other games still going, Tanya? We have all games finished.
What a run and what a start that was. Incredible play by both Grischuk and Gukesh there. Let's update everyone with the results that we've had in round 1. We've got a couple of minutes before the start of round 2. And Robert, we're going to use this time to actually look at the chess that we couldn't because of fast play.
Yeah, let's first update everybody of the results of round 1. We saw Grischuk take down Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Vidit and Hari, they drew their game. Gukesh, we just witnessed that victory over his rival, Nodirbek Abdusattorov. Arjun and Vincent Keimer, we saw that earlier. The queens were traded, it was a draw. And Praggnanandhaa, my pick to win the Blitz. He takes down Rajabov with the black pieces, thanks to finding that tactic to win him in exchange.
And these are the standings going into round 2. We've had 3 winners from round 1 who lead the board. And meanwhile, Maxime, the winner of the rapid start slow, along with Nodebek Raja. But things are just getting started. It's too early to call. The players have got another 8 rounds ahead of them.
8 rounds today, 9 more tomorrow. That's 17 if we add it up correctly. So with 17 rounds still to go, of course, it's too early to call anything. But we have seen some good games in that first round. Grischuk, we watched a lot of that. And then we saw Praggnanandhaa early. He takes a full point. So which of the games do we want to go into more detail about?
Let's take a look on the Pragg Rajabov board. He did win the game, and let's see how he managed to get this full point. And wow, it was a checkmate on the board.
Let's not forget that Praggnanandhaa beat Rajabov with black in the rapid, the first game of that, with a checkmate. So he checkmated Rajabov twice already, and this one we left off a while ago, but it was a clear advantage for black, but he turned an advantage into checkmate. That's always exciting. So let's go back in time to right here. This is where the exchange was won. And Tanya, I think that you really appreciated this move right here, bishop to e8. It's just good full board awareness, defending h5, trying to trade the rooks off. Of course, Rajabov wanted no part of that, but look at how Pragg did this. He just took a pawn that was offered. I think players would be a little bit nervous about weakening their own pawns, but Pragg, he sees into the future.
And I think it all came down to that critical moment where Temur just blundered an exchange, and it's really hard to come back from that with such little time, and there was very little compensation. It was an easy job after that for Praggnanandhaa.
He made it look easy, right? That's just how good he is, because he did not allow his pawns to fall. He brought his G pawn up the board, and I just want to show everybody how he delivered the checkmate. The rook went to d1 as soon as the knight got in the bishop's path, and then he brings his rook back to d5, attacking the pawn on c5. So he's going after weaknesses and weak squares, and then the rook to d3. Look at that rook dance. d1 to d5, back to d3, forcing white to be passive. He tries to get active. Thank you for your pawn. And then let's bring my rooks back into the game. And he forced Rajabov to do something desperate to trade pieces. But when you're ahead, you want to trade pieces.
And then he picked up another pawn on c5. So he's just trading as much as he can. And then eventually the rooks find their way into the first rank. And we see the other rook come in as well once the c1 square was vacated. And this move gave the opportunity for black to trap white's king in a kill zone.
The only move was to push the f-pawn, still losing for white. He tries to escape with the king, but there was no way to escape. That is checkmate on the board, not something you see every day at the highest level.
Fantastic finish there. Let's take a look at another game that we couldn't catch up on. Vidit against Hari Krishna. It ended in a draw. Let's have a look at how the two Indians performed in round 1.
Well, we see the final position. It's just because the king can't go up the board. That would be checkmate on b4. So the king had to slide back, and the queen followed suit. That looks like a fair draw. But I see, at least by the color coordination on the chess.com screen, there were mistakes happening even towards the end of the game. Black made this move queen to e5, and then when queen d5 happened, that allowed the forced draw. So instead of this move, white is up a pawn, king b3 is a superior option that takes away this very important check. And in fact, the black queen would only have one check, but the white king can slide away.
Yeah, just the position is dependent on the fact that black's king is so far away from the c4 passer that white has. Meanwhile, white's king can fight against Hari Krishna's passer on the a file. So white's pawn just has bigger chances of promotion. It would keep hopes alive for with it if he could have escaped the perpetual.
And it's difficult to make a king move when you have so many options. But yes, he could have kept chances alive had he slid his king over, as we noted, only one check. And the king could slide back to c2 or a2.
So difficult.
Yeah, even to win this position would be difficult, but he would have some chances, of course.
And let's not forget, it might be difficult to win this position. It's even more difficult to defend this position. And that's when mistakes happen. Eventually, this game ended peacefully, Robert. We were looking at Arjun versus Vincent. Arjun was in driver's seat, but I see that one ended in a draw. How did Vincent survive?
Yeah, let's go back in time because we looked at the early stages of this game. We were around here, and just to see how this one developed, Black actually made a very big decision to allow an isolated pawn on d6. So, Tanya, this looks like a weakness. These are weaknesses. This is the type of game you expect in Blitz to have a winner, not be a drawn result.
Yes, even though the queens have been traded off, there are so many points to attack for both players, and that's what they try to do. But the knight can be so tricky in these positions, jumping around. Notice how the black bishop doesn't have clear targets, while Arjun continued to put pressure on the queen side, wanting to double up on the b file there, also attacking the b7 pawn now.
Yeah, the b7 pawn is weak, so the bishop comes out to defend. White is clearly better, so Arjun making all these strong moves. The rook went to e8. Apparently that was a mistake, and Arjun, he missed the moment. That's what that red X means, is that he probably could have taken on c6. If the rook takes, down goes the b7 pawn. If the pawn takes, and this is counterintuitive, Tanya, it fixes black's pawn structure, but white is aggressive. This is a passive rook. These are very active rooks, and white plays a6, and it looks like an almost winning position.
But Robert, throughout the game, the big advantage for Arjun was the good knight versus bad bishop. And to trade that off, to give that off without having enough time to really figure the evaluation is a big ask.
It is a super counterintuitive decision, and he makes a very natural move. It was a missed opportunity, and that allowed Vincent just the moment to go after white's pawn on a5. That is a loose pawn, and now we see the trades. Apparently that was a mistake, so multiple mistakes happening around that c6 square.
And you have to really admire Vincent. He had 8 seconds on the clock at this moment. Arjun, about 50 seconds. But really precise defense by Vincent.
Yes, when Arjun didn't capitalize around here, Vincent brings his king back to help defend. And these question marks, I think they're a bit harsh sometimes, I'm going to be honest. The players, they're playing on their waning seconds, but f5 check, this looks like an almost winning edge until that move right before the game's end. Trading rooks was not the way to go. In fact, white could have gone for a checkmating net of his own, just like we saw Pragg do.
Oh, I was just thinking the same thing.
This would have been a checkmating net.
Yeah, and that's a great idea. You double up on the 8th rank and then just put black's king with no squares. Once the other rook comes to b8, the other rook gives a check from 8-7, or the f8, e8 checkmating pattern. Could have been very dangerous for black here.
And this is something that Arjun would have seen if he had more than 12 seconds on his clock. But when you're playing very quickly, you just trade pieces, you make a check, but it allowed a forced draw by repetition. So the results, I think, made a lot of sense in this game. Arjun did have some chances. He's your pick to win the Blitz. Yeah, he draws the first game, but he'll probably do better going forward.
Well, he has to pick up the pace because it is all about getting those wins in. And also, let's remind our viewers that you can get a big win in. So you got a contest on Twitter, and let's bring that up for everyone watching. Get your phones out, chat, get involved. And Robert, one lucky winner will win a 1-year diamond membership with Chess.com. That's worth fighting for.
They will, so let us know your favorite player without telling us who that player is. Use descriptors, have fun with it, be creative, because there will be only one winner. So if you just say, oh, my favorite player in this Tata Steel chess tournament is the former world rapid champion, and that's Nodirbek Abdusattorov, well, it's a little bit too straightforward for us. Give us something a little bit more creative. Have fun with it. And the lucky winner will win 1-year membership on chess.com.
Yes, and you can use the command TSCI in chat for all the details. And also don't forget to use the hashtag Tata TSCI 2023 to participate in this giveaway. So tell us, who is your favorite chess player without telling us your favorite chess player. Make it creative, make it fun. Right now, the players have to get all the creativity on the chessboard as we're about to kick off round 2.
And I'm not sure where we're going to focus when we get to round 2 because we have excellent pairings each and every round. So the results you see up top there, but the pairings for round 2, it's the same as in the rapid, the same order of events. And by the way, if you want to watch this action yourself, you can follow any game on chess.com/events, and that way you can go to the Tata Steel India event and find the player that you want to watch, that player that you'll tell us without telling us.
Yes, and it's got to be one of the 10 on the screen right now, and they're ready to go. Robert, we're going to have handshakes any moment, and then it's kickoff.
And look at this. This action is intense. There are many fans in the audience. Say it's Friday, right? I usually think in terms of day. I don't think of days of the week. I think in rounds. But we see the players. They're about to start their games.
I couldn't agree more with that. I think chess players are so bad with days. I thought it was Saturday until you mentioned that it's Friday, but it is the weekend, and what better way to spend it than watching some fast and furious chess action? And this will be one of our marquee matchups, as we saw Maxime taking on Praggnanandhaa. And look at that, a battle of the youngsters in this one.
And here, Maxime and Praggnanandhaa, they are squaring off. Maxime, the winner of the Rapid, and Praggnanandhaa, the winner of Game 1 here in the Blitz, while Maxime suffered defeat. So Pragg, he essays this bishop b4 check, queen to e7, defending that bishop. Tanya, I think in the opening choices are fascinating to think about from the players because you never know what to expect in Blitz.
And that's the fun of it, right? When you don't have enough time to counter a surprise in the opening, it might not get you a winning position, but it's cost your opponent those precious seconds on the clock.
Yes, and Maxime playing d4 on the first move. Maybe Pragg didn't even expect that because Maxime plays e4 very often. So players, they're changing up their repertoires for the quicker time control. This is early stages. Any other fascinating openings catching your eye?
And we have seen Maxime really shift from his usual repertoire in this tournament. So that's been fun to watch his change of style. Let's take a tour around and go over to the Nodebek Arjun game. Again, a really fun opening as Black has advanced the pawns on the center of the board, gaining quite a bit of space, and very often that kingside knight from f6 can land on that really juicy c5 square as well.
And it's interesting because not a single pawn or piece for that matter has been traded thus far. Typically we see a Benoni structure where white has played e3, pawn takes d4, taking on d4, and black will play c5 and take back this way. But e3 will not work out very well in many of these positions for white, and that's why the knight soar from f3 to e1 to c2 continues. Tanya, I have to say I like this position for Arjun.
Yes, you see that Black has more space in this position and easier to plan, but for White, on the other hand, there are no weaknesses. So it's a pretty level position so far. That bishop on g2 is an active piece. What Nodebek wants to do is get that bishop on b2, eventually go a3, try and get b4 in. You want to take that c5 square under control.
Yeah, if you can get b4, suddenly you have space to breathe on the queen side. And for Arjun, he wants to stop that. He can develop his bishop from c8, but you're right, there are nothing to attack in White's position. So this bishop on g2 is the strongest piece. I see the eval bar saying Black is better, but I think there are more things to see and spot that you like in White's position.
And there are more games to see because action is on everywhere. Let's head over to another all-Indian clash. This one's experience versus youth as Hari Krishna with the white pieces takes on Gukesh.
Okay, let's look at this, and we could have a hanging pawn structure. That would happen if white takes on c5 and black takes back with a pawn. That means we're ensured a tactical melee, but no, knight to e2. So Hari, he's playing principal chess right now. He doesn't want to create any weaknesses, and let's be honest, it was a struggle for him in Rapid. Here in the Blitz, he might want to stabilize before pushing for more.
So how would you evaluate? Would you want to be white here or black, Robert, in this kind of a structure?
Well, because of the pawn tension is only on these squares, especially after this move g6, I feel like I like white's position. As soon as this diagonal opens up, the black king starts to feel a bit iffy. This queen can slide to a1, rook to c1, and you wait until the precise moment before capturing this pawn c5.
All right, this one is going to be a heated battle, but I think now is the time that we go back to the Maxime Vachier-Lagrave against Praggnanandhaa board, and this will be our game that we will be focusing on as the players are getting low on the clock and there is a lot of tension on the board. Look at how that central e5 pawn is attacked and Pragg unstoppable on the queen side.
Look at Pragg go. He takes over Jabba with black. He gets the black piece a second game in a row. And look at the clocks, by the way. Praggnanandhaa has 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Maxime down to 120. And A takes B3 opens up the A file for the black rooks. There's no attack for white against the black king.
What white really wants to get is a good G5 in, but you have to spend one more move defending that G5 pawn. I don't think white has enough play with G5, F6. Too many sacrifices, too many pawns given up. But with black focusing on the queen side, Maxime decides first to get a little bit of pressure off with the rook trade.
But trading the rooks means fewer attackers for white as well. You want to double your rooks on the G file if you're going to play G5. You only have one left. And black can even consider moving this queen around at some moment. And then again, Pragg plays a precise bishop E8 second game in a row.
Ooh, bishop E8 is the one that sealed the deal in game one for Pragg. And he does it again. White needs to get G5 in. But there is a big threat that Pragg has set up of winning that B3 pawn.
He can win the B3 pawn. He can also bring his knight over towards the king side if he wants. But I like Maxime's decision. If you're going to vacate the A file, give it to me. There could be problems in the last rank.
He's looking for any counterplay that he can find. And this is what Maxime is so good at.
Is there rook takes D2? For a second game in a row, could there be a fork on the B3 square?
Picking up a pawn on the way, so you actually give up the exchange, you win it back with the extra interest.
But I'm going to show that very, very quickly. Rook takes D2 a moment ago, was available to black. Queen takes D2, knight takes B3. It actually says it's equal, so Pragg is smarter than I am. The reason why is the knight gets trapped in the corner, so you get to steal the pawn. So great awareness by the players. Now black's still in charge. You have to love the way Pragg is playing this game.
What an incredible trap there set up by Maxime, which 99.9% of us would fall for. Let's zoom in on the players, Robert, as they're getting into closer, that 1 minute mark. And there we have it. The tension is on.
The tension is real. And I love the way that Pragg keeps playing. Queen B8. He might play Queen B6 at the right moment. First knight D3, Queen B6, and suddenly the white king is in some danger. The white king looks like it's by itself. And that's a problem for white because you need pieces to shield it.
And notice how white still hasn't got G5 in, which is exactly what Maxime is relying on, but with no pieces on the king side. That attack isn't going anywhere, but it is his only break in the position.
It is, but it could backfire because the white king isn't safe either. So if you open the position up, then the white king could be the one that's in more danger. So far, you don't see Pragg rushing the capture on B3. It's not worth it. It gives white a lot of play.
He had to.
And look at how passive white is now.
But he had to go for activity. Good or bad, you need to make the move G5. It doesn't matter what the eval bar says. It's your only practical chance in the position.
It seems that way, and Pragg can bring this knight into D3, hit the queen, maybe wrap the knight around to F4. I could see some mating nets starting to form around the white king. This looks very dangerous for MVL, who only has 29 seconds.
Under 30 seconds for MVL, and with just a 2-second increment, that's barely any time, and black's knight is coming into that nice F4 post.
And it says it's a miss. I don't believe it's a miss. I think it's a hit because he's going knight F4, hitting the queen on G2, trying to distract it from the G5 square. This looks excellent for black.
The only chance that I'm seeing for white's queen is to try and play on the dark squares at some point. When that queen gets hit, come back to G1, start targeting the queen side. He's not going to trade that knight for the bishop. That knight had to jump on F4. White eyeing those dark squares on the queen side.
This knight is just winning Pragg the game. Rook H3 comes to mind to go for the H4 pawn. Also, pawn takes, knight H3, winning the G5 pawn. So this knight is just so powerful for Pragg.
Ooh, and that pawn takes pawn might just force white to actually recapture with the queen, but instead Pragg chooses to put pressure on white's second rank, defended now by the king.
And this king might keep going over to attack this rook to pester it. The rook does safely have the C3 square, but let's not forget about this A file, that if Pragg isn't careful, white can flip the script and go for an initiative.
And we know how many times the script has been flipped by Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. And look at that, the king continues to march over to more safety. Ignore the eval bar right now. I really like Maxime's approach in trying to hold this together. He needs to look for counterplay on the A line.
He's going for it, but black has opened up the king side. Knight F3, apparently that was a game-ending blunder. That probably means you can take the bishop and play bishop H5. The bishop that has done nothing all game will win it for Pragg.
And then he'll have to get the rook into the defense. He does it instantly. Rook F1 is the only way not to lose a piece. He gives a check first. But now there's no way to defend the knight.
None at all. He might go after the queen side. That's what he's going for. He's hoping for counterplay, but it cannot possibly be enough.
Wow, Pragg on fire, winning that first game and now on the brink of defeating the 2021 World Blitz champion.
Are there enough checks for white? Is this a huge threat? It does look like it. Should black backcheck? No, he gives the check and Maxime offers a queen trade. He probably would have made it if he didn't do it, but now just trade queens and win the ensuing endgame.
Just do it. That is the traditional chess wisdom. You're up material. You want to trade off as many pieces. Maxime still trying to create chaos on the board, creating more weaknesses. If black was to take it, you want to exchange as many pawns as possible. He would have picked up the c7 pawn.
And that's why Pragg brought his king back. Now his king is close to this passer. It's not scary at all. And a resignation has occurred. Praggnanandhaa is at 2 out of 2.
Praggnanandhaa on fire, but let's quickly move over to the Arjun Agassi versus Nordebek board as the players are playing under 10 seconds right now. Let's bring up Nordebek Abdusatro versus Arjun Agassi.
It looks like they are going to repeat moves. There's no choice for either side at this stage, and they have just made the third and final repetition. It makes sense. The queen went back and forth, stopping checkmate because the king had to move, and that was that.
And a big result by Hari Krishna, who takes down Gukesh, but we still have live action on, and it looks like Vidit is about to beat Alexander Grischuk. He is up a piece. Vidit Gujarati against Alexander Grischuk, and this is the position. But there are very few pawns left. Vidit has to make sure that the 8-6 pawn remains alive.
Because let's remind everybody that 2 knights, even against a lone king, that is a theoretical draw. You only can win if your opponent helps you. So look at Vidit go. He brings his knight back to g7. He makes sure his pawn stays on the board. He will never put it on a light square.
Really nice there, taking control of the only square where the white king could have attacked the 8-6 pawn. h5 under control. Now he has to find a way to push white's king back so that he can go forward with his own king.
And the eval bar is misleading here because from a practical point of view, it's so difficult for black to ever push this h-pawn. You're so scared to do that. Even bishop g4 after pawn h5, trading off that last pawn should be a draw.
And just 6 seconds to convert this endgame, so not easy at all. And the aim for white is to try to just advance the f5 pawn or get the king ahead. But the 2 knights really keeping everything under control. All the squares are defended.
And at what point, if black wants to make progress, does he have to push his h-pawn? He really doesn't want to. And I think that theoretically being so difficult to do means that it's going to be difficult for him to win the game.
And now you can go king h5.
Oh my gosh.
You have to go king h5, and then after knight has to step back, he does king h5, knight gives a check, but the pawn is gone. White could lose the bishop, could lose the h-pawn, and it's still a draw.
Although the king is on the rim of the board, so you could checkmate yourself if you're not careful, but not with the bishop on the board. Oh, he does play his bishop to f5.
He wants to give it away. It doesn't matter.
That's so funny. It's very hard for people to understand that, but black, if you take this bishop, is it actually, can you claim a draw?
It has to be a 50-move rule. You have to play on till the 50-move rule. You can't claim a draw. And look at that. The bishop stays on the board. It's hanging. You pick up that bishop. It is a draw as 2 knights cannot mate. The aim for Vidit is to actually checkmate white by putting the king in a zugzwang where only you have a bishop move.
It's hilarious. And they're
and Vidit shaking his head.
He's like, what am I supposed to take the bishop at some point? They both know that's a theoretical draw, so it's a smart play from Grischuk. Oh. That is very funny for our audience. There is a bishop hanging, yes. It doesn't change the evaluation.
And that is an acceptance that this will end in a draw. A confident hold by Grischuk.
And wow, Vidit's win must have been super difficult because he only had 1 pawn remaining. That pawn left the board. This should be a draw. Do you think there are any chances for Vidit to still win this game?
You needed that bishop for any chances so that if you can get the king in a zugzwang, white still has some move to play. And then you can deliver a checkmate. But without the bishop, there's no chance at all.
No, and
you have to walk into a 1-move mate.
Yeah, you have to like walk your king into the corner if you're white, and you just keep your king in the center. You cannot actually get checkmated.
And Grischuk continues with it. A lot of shake of heads there. He's going to play till the 50-move rule. And let's see, when was the bishop captured? We'll get an update. How many moves?
But even if we know, you think Grischuk is counting, right?
He's not counting, but he can claim a draw and then get to know how many moves he's got left. And look at that, king has to be a little careful of where you move it to. Just don't walk into a mate in one.
Yeah, look at these knights. They're just trying to push the king to the corner. But even when the king looks like it's going to get there, it doesn't matter. Vidit's doing a great job of trying here.
He's managed to box the king up in the corner, but even that's not enough to win this game. And Grischuk continues to play confidently. Now he's got over a minute on the clock.
I don't even know how you checkmate yourself here. I've been trying to figure that out because you see the eval bar says zeros, and it is a complete draw. The problem is knights, they can't lose the tempo, and so you often, the way forward would result in a stalemate before you can deliver a checkmate.
Yeah, you'd have to really help your opponent. For example, if Black's king is on e2, there are ways in which you can set it up, but you'll have to be super helpful to your opponent.
And look at Vidit. He's still trying. Good on him. But there is nowhere to go from here. And this is the final game of the round. No surprise, considering we're on move 133. So we have to give credit to the players for trying.
And the players do try on. And I'm just wondering, even if you were super helpful, could you actually get into a self-mate here, Robert? Is there a setup?
As I said, I don't know how you get there, but there is a way. That otherwise, there would be no point of even playing. Like, there is a way to checkmate yourself. But Grishuk, they're on move 141. I don't know where move 50 is, but are we going to get to 150 moves?
I do see a setup. So, Black king f2, knight f1, knight g3, king h1.
Right. The king has to be in the corner. So
Yeah.
if this king is in the corner, you can deliver a checkmate. I just don't know how you even do that by accident. By the way, this was the 50th move, but the players have no idea.
Because 75 moves, the arbiter can intervene and stop the clocks. And Grishuk is confident enough of the hole that he doesn't even care about claiming right now.
And that's important for the fans to know that 50 moves, if you're taking notation, you keep it. But we went to move 151, and the players, they keep going because they don't know when the 50 move is. The arbiter will step in at 75.
It's 155 moves. This is the longest game of Tata Steel Chess India.
And look at the time that Grishuk has. He now has almost a minute and 30 seconds. He's playing that quickly.
Wow. I wonder if Grishuk offers a draw right now. Will Vidit take it?
No chance. He is playing to win this game. But look at these positions. There's just no way forward for Vidit because if you move your king too soon, it's a stalemate. And this is looking kind of close.
This is what we were talking about, right? Imagine if White's king is on h2, you go knight f1 check, king h1, and your knight comes to g3 with a mate.
Yes, so here, knight f1 is stalemate. This
Yes.
is exactly what we're trying to tell people. Is the knight, and unfortunately, can't lose a tempo. But if you could get these knights in the right order, you would be able to deliver checkmate. But
He's trying, but he
not
might
happening.
need 75 moves before he's able to do that.
just not happening. And you see Vidit just continuing to move the knights around. When is the arbiter going to step in? I don't even know what the right move is. But we're move 170,
Oh my
everybody.
God. Is this going to touch 200 without the arbiter stepping in?
No, the arbiter will be in there ending this round. Otherwise, this will end while the next round's supposed to begin.
He's managed, and then Vidit smiling, Alexander Grishuk smiling, we're all smiling. What a game this was.
It was a true fight between two stars of the chess world. They went to move 173. The arbiter stepped in right at that moment, so that you've got to give credit to the arbiters for paying very close attention there. There's not going to be a checkmate. It's going to be a stalemate. But what were our other results?
3 decisive games, 2 draws, including the marathon one that we just saw, and the Nordebek Argent finished in a draw. Meanwhile, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, he goes down to Praggnanandhaa, a second win in the row for Pragg there, and Vincent Khemer scores a point against Temur Rajabov, while Hari Krishna with a big win against Gukesh. Should we take a look at that one?
Yeah, why don't we first show Vincent Khemer against Rajabov, because Raja finished second in the Rapid, so the top 2 finishers of the Rapid both have 0 points after 2 games in the Blitz.
Yeah, they really need to pick up their pace, otherwise it's so easy to go on tilt. Let's take a look at this, Robert, and see how Vincent scored this point.
What a final position this is. Both sides are 1 square away from queening. The issue is the black king is stuck in the center. The white king is helping the pawn promote. So it looks like Vincent had a fun final position, as it looks like it should be the same, but looks can be deceiving.
White's just first here, and Black's king is so far away. And let's just go through some of the critical moments in this game and see how we got here. It was an endgame, and this is what makes Vincent so strong, that even when it comes to these technical endgames, he knows how to maneuver his pieces around.
Shout out to Peter Lecko, who has been Vincent's coach. I mean, he is such a technical player himself. Knight f4, great move by Vincent, and this capture on f4, that was a mistake by Temur. He should have instead brought his knight somewhere like c3, because the king couldn't take the pawn on f6. There would have been a check on e4. So that's very hard to spot in a blitz game with 9 seconds on the clock. But we see after the trade, Vincent's task got easier because his king helped escort the pawn to the other side.
It's just a lot more active, and Black's king barely played a role, and White's rook stops the black pawn from queening while the king assists the g pawn, and this was game over.
It was, and you mentioned that Hari had a big win over Gukesh. Gukesh, the star top 10 player in the world. Hari used to be in the top 10. In fact, for one day, he passed Anand in the live ratings. So we know what he's capable of. And look at this final position. White was up so many pawns. The final move that if White wanted to play was King G2, just defending the loose piece. And how many extra pawns is it? 3?
Yeah. And those pawns on the queen side are unstoppable. Let's take a look at some of the critical moments. How did Hari actually win these pawns against Gukesh?
Okay, let's go back to around this moment here. It looks like the position opened up. It started off as a closed one, but when this happened here, it says black is even slightly better, but after knight takes c5, look, that's the most natural move in the position. You are defended here. The better choice, Tanya, apparently is knight e5 going for the attack.
Yeah, but you always want to recapture material. You want to win that pawn back. But the whole point is that the c6 square is so defended now with that knight 3 pieces, making sure that it doesn't become a passer. And you want to create initiative against White's king.
There's knight f3. Also, look at this move, knight d3. Because if you take it and this pawn takes, you hit the rook and checkmate at the same time. So many tactics were in the air.
If that bishop opens up, then it's more than enough compensation. So knight c5, and that's so tricky, right? You've got only seconds. You make the most natural move, and it turns out to be a mistake.
Because White just grabbed a pawn in the center, and it looks like he made the use of his extra pawn. Then make it 2 pawns, then make it 3 pawns. So he just took all the pawns on the board, and then look at that final move, by the way, queen d3. Please take my bishop, because you have to trade queens, and the a pawn gets to the other side.
It's unstoppable. The knight is too far, and Hari Krishna scored a win with that. And that leaves one game that we did not have the chance to look at. Should we head over quickly to take?
I think we have the game starting in a second. So
let's do it. Let's head over to our live action from the playing hall, as just in a few moments we will have the first moves of the third round. And as you said, Maxim and Rajabov still to score a point.
Yeah, it's 0 out of 2 for them, but 16 rounds to go. That is the cool thing for those players, is that there's plenty of time to catch up. And you know, if someone wants to blame us for not looking at their game, blame Vidit and Grishuk. Their game went 173 moves.
So Vidit with the shortest game of the Tata Steel Chess India, the 4-move draw against Magnus, and the longest game of Tata Steel Chess India.
He is playing some fighting chess, that's clear. And speaking of fighting chess, Grishuk against Gukesh, that should be a great epic clash. And I don't know, Praggnanandhaa, he's taking on Vincent Keimer. Those are our top scorers right now. Maybe we should focus on that game coming into the third round as we see them shake hands.
And it's go time as Pragg takes on...
What happened here? The arbiter getting involved once they started the clocks.
And... maybe the clocks didn't start. Because they're resetting the clock right now. So a little technical glitch there, and now it's go time as Pragg starts with the king's pawn.
How funny would it have been if he changed his move? Like one of them. Like they played the Sicilian, and now they play the Caro-Kann. But Vincent with the black pieces, he would love to leapfrog Pragg. Pragg perfect, 2 out of 2 thus far. And Tanya, we've seen these two eating dinner with Arjun as well. So they're clearly good friends.
Pragg 2 out of 2, and Vincent with a big win against Rajabov in the previous round. So also feeling good about the Blitz. And it is a slow opening.
Yes, it is. So maybe while we see this position start as closed, is there any other openings that are particularly open? Or no, it looks like all of them are actually pretty steady in the early stages.
But let's do a quick tour around, and then we can stick to the most exciting action. And let's head over to Grishuk, who's had quite a start in this tournament, winning the first game against the rapid winner Maxim Vachier-Lagrave, and then holding a difficult endgame against Vidit in round 2.
Gukesh and Grishuk. I don't think anyone is going to be upset about us clicking on that game. Here it is. And we see that Gukesh has the white pieces, and it's double pawns for both. So this definitely came from an Italian. And what do you think of this position that we have on the board?
It's quite... it's sort of really interesting because Black's knight is centralized. You're looking at all these dark squares. That bishop is targeting the f2 pawn. Meanwhile, White has to make a decision, right? Do you want your knight from c4 to trade that strong bishop, or you want to start attacking the weaknesses in Black's camp on the light squares with a timely knight e3, knight f5 ideas? I think it's too early to call for either side. Both have their own trumps.
Yeah, the semi-open A file, good for White, and now Black makes the pawns are protected. The semi-open D file, but this pawn C2, defensive pawn D3. It's not much of an advantage for either side, but there are different open files, which gives, and a castle queenside for Grishuk.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, now suddenly we're looking at, is there going to be attack for White, or is Black going to throw all these pawns up the board?
Yeah, big question. Again, it's going to be a race to each other's king right now. And White has already started it with the B pawn moving forward. We can also imagine at some point a sacrifice with B5. You need to time it well, but it's all about getting to each other's king right now. And Gukesh to play, he's taking a little bit of his time.
Yeah, so
I would be worried about his clock.
While he does that, there's a big matchup that I think we should tune into, and it's Vidit against Maxime. That will definitely be a grudge game because Vidit, his rapid tournament, didn't get to the highest heights because he lost that material opposition against Maxime.
Yeah, we can quickly take a look at that one. Vidit against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave before we jump back to Grishchuk, because I do see he's gone for the G pawn push.
And look at the advantage. It's a big advantage once again for Vidit. This d6 pawn is weak. This bishop on b7 staring to his own pawn. So 2 bishops for black, but no advantage.
It's because of the bishop pair, just making sure that you've got enough compensation. The rook now defends the d6 pawn, and it's kind of difficult for White to break into this position. You do have more active bishop on g5, pinning that knight on e7, but are you seeing a direct way to seize the initiative for White here?
I don't. I do like that the pawn structure feels intact for White. Perhaps queen f4, just to get this queen active, and he plays that. There could also be queen h4, just pressurizing that pin knight on e7. So big decisions for Maxime. He's down to a minute 20. If Vidit can win this game, Maxime will go to 0 out of 3. That would be shocking.
After his tremendous performance in the rapid and knowing just what a speed specialist it is, it has been a disastrous start for Maxime. He needs to somehow stop the bleeding in this one. It's not even about getting winning chances, but just make sure you don't lose as black. He had to defend the d6 pawn, does it by pushing the pawn. Not only defends the pawn, but opens up his own bishop on b7.
It's a much more active piece. It does give the d5 square away, so at some moment you have to watch out. But for now, the black knight could take back. So bishop f6, he's going for an attack, but the engine didn't like it.
Because all your pieces are on the queen side. What is going to assist that queen on the attack? And I liked your idea of lining a battery instead with that pin on the h4 d8 diagonal, and Maxime seizing the moment to get rid of all the weaknesses on the board.
Vidit, I believe, missed this move because the queens are now staring at each other. If you trade them, black's problems are completely gone. I think Maxime has done well to equalize this position.
You know what Vidit missed is the back rank weakness. If White trades, let's just quickly show that. Queen b6, you take on d5, knight d5, and here it looks like black is actually losing a piece on d5, but guess what? You take the bishop, you lose your king.
Great point. That rook takes bishop, loses to a back rank checkmate. Probably what Vidit missed, and he decides to backtrack with his queen, and now we see a fighting game. So Vidit didn't want to just make a draw by trading queens. That likely would have been the result. Instead, he fights for more, and his knight's under attack, Tanya, but I don't think he's going to move it. He can play e takes d5, because when black takes the knight on b3, white takes this knight on e7. It is getting very tactical.
It is absolute chaos on the board. You take on d5, I can't take that knight because of the knight on e7 hanging, and then you have to calculate what happens if black actually recaptures on d5, opens up the bishop. It's complete chaos and a big decision for Vidit to make, who's now under 1 minute.
Yes, so it's not an easy choice. The position is getting spicy.
And I want to point out, if you move that knight, b2 was hanging, so he had to go for this variation.
And he does. Now there's a pawn on a2, but the computer actually likes white even more. So I'm wondering if white can trade and start thinking about pushing this pawn. That looks a bit risky because, as you pointed out, b2's hanging. Oh,
nice move there by Vidit. Look at the double attack, the geometry in the position.
And that earned that exclamation point. I wasn't looking there. I was looking at this pawn pushing, but b2 was loose. You can't take b2 now because the rook is hanging with check. What a find by Vidit to grab this pawn on a2.
I love that move, and it's so easy to miss when all your focus is on one side of the board, but the queen just slid, and this could cost Maxime that 3rd point. Winning that pawn, defending d5, and now Vidit has a healthy extra pawn. That's a big passer in the center of the board.
And every single white piece is defended now. So great play from Vidit. Are any other games heating up?
All of them, and players are on seconds right now. I'm going to leave the decision to you. Where do you want to go to? Perhaps we should just quickly take a look at Praggnanandhaa against Vincent, because it looks like it could be a checkmating attack there.
Okay, let's go to that game. It is our leader, Praggnanandhaa, perfect 2 out of 2, taking on Vincent Keimer, 1.5 out of 2. And look at this position. is it Black's turn here? White has sacrificed an exchange, Tanya, so Black has 2 rooks, White has 2 knights, but this king feels very out in the open. I would be scared of an attack.
I'm threatening queen f7. That's the big threat you first need to handle. So either you come back with your knight to defend it, do you want to push your pawn? But this is committal chess. You're going to leave a lot of weaknesses on the board, which can be picked up immediately. 1
pawn was just captured, and I'm wondering if you can get more. A knight takes g7 probably is too much. B takes a4. It's called a mistake by the engines here.
Because you defend the b2 pawn. Your knight comes back, and now you can't capture b2.
Yeah, everything now defended for White. There is an escape, no back rank checkmates. Queen f5 played. Do not trade queens if you're Pragg. Bring that queen into d6, and you see him. He lifts that queen into Black's position. Tanya, this is looking scary for Vincent because checkmate on g7 looms.
Queen d7 is a massive threat, and it's hard to imagine a defense, so he had to vacate some squares for the queen to come back and defend the g7 mate. Praggnanandhaa on fire. Can he convert it with just seconds on the clock? He has to fall back with the queen. Queen g6. But that loses a central pawn. The queen was overloaded.
Queen takes d5. Give me that pawn. And this knight on a4 can come back to c5 at any moment. So the material count is an extra rook for Black, but a knight. Whoa!
Look at that move. Big move. You attack the rook, and the rook is overloaded. He has to defend the c6 knight as well.
Oh, I am sure we'll analyze this after the game, but that was so knight a7.
Oh my God. What is this chess, Robert? This is from another planet.
He sacrifices a knight just to win it back with a check, and if the rook b2, rook takes g7, White is 2 pawns ahead. The engines say that Black is still in this game. I think from a player's perspective, this should be a win for White.
You've got 2 extra pawns, but you require good technique because that c3 pawn is weak and Black has so much activity. Look at that king just coming into White's camp. It's not going to be an easy convert.
No, not at all. Rook takes c3 ball, king takes d4 was the idea. And now is rook takes c3 available? White should probably play g3 to try to run this h pawn up the board. He finds it.
He finds it. He doesn't miss anything. The idea is to create a passer as quickly as possible, not allowing Black to trade off the rooks by winning the c-pawn.
And I've heard as quickly as possible is now. He plays h4, Black close it with g4, but can that pawn just run up the board? He starts with king g2. Tanya, we may eventually see a rook behind the pawn, but no, he goes forward.
He wants more. Pragg picks up the 3rd pawn in the position, and this will be a convert, and Vincent wants none of it. He resigns. Pragg on fire, 3 out of 3.
3 out of 3 for Praggnanandhaa, but 2 games still in play. Let's go to the game between Arjun Erigaisi or Timur. Let's go to Timur Rajabov versus Nodirbek Abdusattorov. These choices are difficult. Black's king is on e3. Will Rajabov also go to 0 out of 3?
Wow, Roger, I mean, anything can happen. It's a game for 3 results. That king in the center of the board, the f4 square, can actually get checkmated if you're not careful.
That's true, and we see that Rajabov goes after the e6 pawn, queen h4, both sides making mistakes. That's the nature of Blitz for you.
Look at the panic on them, Robert. Both of them are so shaky right now.
I'm shaky. I'm not even playing, but I feel nervous for them. And he goes bishop to d5.
Oh my God, I would be scared for that king.
Wait, don't king d4.
King d4, queen f2 was game over.
So he goes back, and then the white queen steals the g6 pawn. It feels like suddenly Black's pawns are falling off the board, but b3 is loose. That's the good news for Nodirbek, is he can give himself an outside pass pawn at some moment.
That's his only hope, and he does it. And I have the feeling that the b-pawn is strong enough to compensate for the 2 connected passes on the king side. Look how advanced it is. All you need to do is get back with the bishop and start pushing it. But are they going to just repeat? Nodirbek going for the win.
And queen b6 check. He trades the queens, but this pawn is very hard to stop. White's pawn is just running up the board. The good news is if Black can take the g2 pawn and the king gets the other side, it's the wrong colored bishop at the very worst.
But nice move there, stopping h5, and you can start pushing your own
bishop
pawns
c2.
now. Is Black winning now?
Oh, what a move, bishop c2, because White can't take this bishop because the pawn will go.
But look at the tension now. You can't push the pawn because White takes the bishop.
This is so unclear because both sides may have to take at some point. Like right now, bishop takes on g6, pawn takes b2, g7, b1, g8. We both get queens. That is what's happening.
It's happening. As you're calling it out, it is on the board. And Robert, I think this will end in a draw after this madness that we're seeing. Rajabov offering a repeat, but is Nodirbek going to get ambitious?
I don't think he can because his king is too out in the open. Sometimes you get your pass pawn. He's Nodirbek Abdusattorov. He does not just make draws without clawing his way to the very last moves.
Nodirbek going for it. He says, no draws. You've got to earn every half point against me. Look at that. Don't trade the queens. The black pawn is way closer to queening than the white pawn.
And he does not trade queens. The king can move with check. It's not scary. There's no checkmate just yet. But don't play into queen f2. You have to be very careful. He gives the queen check first. Tanya, I love black's king on e3.
This is getting scary for white. Look at the coordination between the queen and the king to assist that pawn from getting to that queening square.
And here the king goes up. The pawn can be pushed next. And Timur's doing the right thing. He's giving a bunch of checks. He cannot push his g pawn up the board. It's too slow.
He just has to survive the check somehow. Find a safe spot for the king. Where does he hide?
I think that he's going to go king f2 because if you check on a7, pawn goes to e3.
But you can check on f6.
Ah, that's a good one. And if king e2, queen a6, so the queen just darts around the board. And you can see Nodirbek. Look at his posture. He's making moves that kind of slapping the clock a little bit. He wants to find a safe square for his king.
He knows he's so close. It's just about getting that e-pawn one step ahead. But Temur, he's not giving him the chance.
No, he's not. The king goes back to f4. It is safe there. There will be no checkmate.
Queen f8.
Queen of 8, he's just giving the checks. As long as you say, queen of 8, queen over here, keep giving the checks. But Nodirbek's trying to run with his king. And Tanya, my question is this. We're on move 101. Will this go longer than 173 moves?
Oh, will this be the new longest game of the Tata Steel Chess India? Nodirbek is going to take this down to the wire. Temur will have to fight for that draw. You can't push the e-pawn because the queen is still pinned.
But this does give some checks against the white king. Not right now. Queen d3. He really wants to push this pawn.
Queen d6 will be a draw, so it's not a great time to trade.
That's right. Nodirbek does not want to draw here. He's playing for a win. This king is just running around the board. G5. Look at this by Timur. He keeps pinning the pawn.
And now the pawn moves forward.
Uh-oh.
This is getting tricky.
And look at Timur. He's got his hand on his head. He's
Robert,
good.
You want to make a side bet? This will be a decisive game.
You think it's going to be decisive? I think Timur will hold it.
Oh my gosh, I don't know which way, but I think it's going to be decisive. Look at that. He's going for the checks. Temur really trying to get that draw in.
And queen c2, if you take it, black will queen first. So there's queen h1 check, queen d1. You still don't trade. You bring the queen right back.
And now he continues with the checks.
Oh.
Oh.
This is so close, but you give a check. The king, unfortunately, can't escape to f2, if you're thinking from Nodirbek's perspective. So Raja's doing the right thing.
And he's playing moves with 3 seconds on the clock. That's just a 2-second increment. This is madness.
Yeah, barely getting the moves off the players. Now down to about 8 seconds for white, 6 for black. And what to do here? There's no more checks. There's no check against the black king.
And the queen from c3 defends g7. You can't push the g-pawn.
Oh my goodness. The king goes back. The pawn is 1 square away from promotion.
Oh my god!
Queen c6. He picks up the g-pawn.
But then the king will not have defense. Can you pick up the g6 pawn?
But
you have time.
He's doing a smart thing. He's not taking it just yet. So he's waiting to do it.
Look at the body language. He knows it. He picks it up with a check.
He found a way to take a check, and the king can safely slide over to f1. Where's the queen check coming from? You were right. It's going to be a win for Nodirbek Abdusattorov.
That is the 2021 World Rapid Champion, the youngest ever World Rapid Champion, and he's done it.
He is doing it right now. Where does he go? The queen e3, and then he finds it. That is super precise because the white king can't approach the pawn anymore. Now his king slides to g1. There are no checks.
You go queen b1 and e1, and that is it. It's game over. Nodirbek wins.
What a finish to that round. It was 133 moves of intense endgame action, and Abdusattorov, his persistence, it pays off, and he gets a win. And Tanya, on the flip side, Rajabov and MVL down to 0 out of 3.
And they were the star players of the Rapid. But that game, that conversion that we just saw, that was some top-class Blitz action. I can't believe what we just witnessed, Robert.
But you called it. You said that Nodirbek was going to win the game.
Did you see the determination on him? He was sitting there, avoiding the repetition, and it was clear that he had the win in his mind, one way or the other, but making it a reality. What intense action.
Oh my goodness, and there are other decisive games. Look at that, 4 in total of this round. Alexander Grishuk, he continues to go under the radar. I keep saying it, and I still am not looking at his games. He beat Gukesh with black. We saw a draw between Arjun and Hari. Vidit, he gets his revenge against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. And look at these standings right here. One person's alone at the top. That is Praggnanandhaa, and Grishuk at 2.5 3. He's right there behind him.
He's right there. He's the 3-time World Blitz champion. And Praggnanandhaa, what a start he's had. Can he keep up the momentum? And he was your pick. But for me, Nodirbek with that win, converting it against a top-class player like Temur Rajabov, that was the game of the day so far.
And look at Rajabov down at the bottom of the standings with Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. These were the top 2 finishers in the Rapid. The Blitz is a whole different story, a whole new event. And Praggnanandhaa, he is finding his footing in this field. Will he get his first huge win here in Calcutta?
That is the big question, and there's still 6 more Blitz games that are coming up. We're gonna catch our breath after that action that we just witnessed, Robert. We're gonna take a quick break. Guys, don't go anywhere. This is chess that you don't want to miss. We'll be right back from Kolkata. Everyone, we are about to kick off round 4 of the Tata Steel Chess India, and joining us for this critical stage in the tournament is 5-time world champion Vishy Anand. Vishy, we've got so many exciting matchups coming up, and the one that catches our attention is Nodebek versus Pragg. So just in time for that one, let's bring out the chessboard and get into it.
Sure.
Vishy, how impressed have you been by Nodebek and his fighting spirit? And of course, Pragg has won all 3 games, so we know him. But that last game that we just saw there from Nodebek,
it was great. The queen ending was essentially drawn, but you don't win games by acknowledging the evaluation. You win games by pushing and pushing and pushing. And from the way he played it, I understood he didn't have much time either. So it's good. But that's how he became World Rapid Champion. Let's not forget that he beat Magnus in some 100-move queen ending.
right?
So this is a pattern.
Yeah, it's
So-
it's not by accident.
No, it's not by accident at all. He's done it before.
Fighting chess, and let's bring up the board as the players have made their first moves, and it already promises to be an exciting battle. Nodebek against Praggnanandhaa.
Okay, Pragg is clearly very happy with this position. His second time after doing it with Temur. So, but perhaps Nodebek has taken a quick look and played e3, but I just allows e5, doesn't it?
Right. And
I mean, this is the most...
didn't
okay.
we saw this exact opening from?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Pragg is doing it again. If e4, rook d8 and all that stuff. But now, why didn't he just play e5?
He's going for his beloved b5.
B5, yes.
He likes playing on this side of the board. And what's curious to me, Vishy, is that Nodebek is thinking a lot. Like he's the one who chose to sacrifice pawn, play into Pragg's prep. I guess you don't really have time to prepare for Blitz.
Right.
And a4 played. Wow. Tanya, I mean, after that long game from Nodirbek, he might be a little bit tired.
Yeah, and that's a factor here, right? You've got such little time to actually get ready for the next round, but he has to just keep moving. And Pragg, with his impressive play, it's not going to be an easy one. These are the couple of minutes that we have time to maybe jump to one more board. Anand, out of all the live boards, which one do you want to go to next?
MVL against Kaimer, the position looks cool.
Okay,
So let's try that.
let's go there. Whoa.
Oh, that is just lovely. There's a lot of action.
Ooh, is that
Basically, the
Nothing
tension is
betrayed.
there until something resolves.
And it's now Max. I didn't even know whose turn it is. I'm looking at the board trying to figure out who's to move. But who's going to flinch first, do you think?
If white flinches, it may not matter. Like if I go DC and CD, it's just a hanging pawn. I mean, this hanging pawn position. But if black opens, I think it can end up very bad because suddenly a knight will enter on c6. So for the moment, black has to sit still, which Maxime is exploiting.
There's not
But
a
for the
single-
moment, I can keep making quiet moves. Bishop b7, perhaps throw in a4 somewhere and get one pawn out of the way. Is b5 possible here? I would rather not. No, I wouldn't do that. Knight d7 is nice enough. Okay, Nodirbek is going for the full pawn sack.
Okay, let's go back to that game.
And is going to try and land something on d6, but come on, this must be very nice for black.
Just by the way you said that, you have no belief at all in White's pawn sag?
That's not true. The knight on d6 is clearly worth something, but on the other hand, let's say I take on g2 here, king g2, and let's rook b6, with the idea rook c6, and then maybe knight c5 coming later. As they say, White's knight is lovely on d6, but what's it doing there?
So you kind of just play around that knight. It doesn't really have targets.
It's not doing anything. So he's gone rook f d1. I go rook c6 now. Or then he would go queen a7 maybe.
Ah.
Oh.
Oh, it's on the board. It does allow
Queen
the move
a7. Hang on, it might not be the end of the world. Queen a7 might be the end of the world.
So you're threatening a knight jump and then the rook
Yes.
connects with the queen.
Oh, but this is crazy because it's just very comfortable for black.
Do you think this is born out of fear that he was down a legitimate pawn, on a double pawn, that he wants to equalize material, but perhaps that mindset is wrong. The material wasn't supported as the initiative.
Yeah. Instead of rook c6, it's harder to see what black should have done. Maybe he should have gone rook fb8 and so on. But then it interferes with this plan of getting the knight to c5 and b3, which is what I was trying to get at. The position wasn't easy, but knight b5 is careless because queen a7 must have been very strong.
But can you explain, because this is such a natural move, you pick up a pawn, you re-win the piece on d7. Why is this a mistake for White?
Just that if queen a7 was better, then this is clearly the second best move. It's good to recover a pawn, but queen a7 I would have recovered a pawn on e5 anyway. I mean on a6 anyway, first of all.
Yeah.
And second, I'm threatening knight e4 and use those pins to win that knight. I might win a piece.
And is there...
Rook c5. Oh yeah,
Queen
queen
d6.
d6, queen d7 check. That's right.
maybe this is what Nodirbek missed from a distance, because if you...
No, but it doesn't matter.
It's
Now I'll go
happening.
queen d6,
Check.
king g1,
And you recapture with the rook, putting pressure on
rook
b2?
takes, and I go queen takes a6.
So I think what you're getting at is the queenless endgame. Is that closer
Well,
to
queen
a-
takes a6, rook takes a6, and you will have to take on b2.
Right.
And I'm going to go rook c6. And since my rook is on that side of it, it's a draw.
Okay.
So,
Is there
yeah,
any...
this is just a draw. I don't see anything. You have to play rook b5. There is nothing else.
is
Anand,
there-
why is our Evalbar giving
Oh,
an
you're saying rook
advantage to
c6.
Pragg? That might explain it.
That might explain. rook c6. Wow.
He found it. Wow.
Plays it.
Okay, then it's good.
Okay, but the form that Praggnanandhaa is in today is remarkable. I mean, just every game it feels like he's finding every chance to give himself an advantage.
And just an update, we already have the first result of round 4, Hari Krishna versus Rajabov, has ended in a draw. So I think that's more about just stopping the bleeding for these two players and getting back into action in
Yeah.
the next one.
Queen d8, but I'm not sure what he's...
Oh, just don't pick up that queen.
Well, okay, if ab5 he wants to go rook d7, but then I just go queen b8 myself. And then he might double on the 7th. So he's trying to get a draw that way. But he could have gone queen d7 with the same idea. And if you take on b5 the queen, then you've got the
Bad pawns.
the split pawns, and that should be... And he does it anyway.
So now rook d8 is a threat?
Yes.
That looks scary. So you can always create luft for your king over here. You can drag your rook back. but
Rook
that
back,
makes-
yeah. That's what he's done. But now rook d2, it's no big deal.
So you think that the extra pawn is not super meaningful at this stage?
I suspect white is probably going to be able to survive this simply by a5. Queen d6 was a tad slow. I thought queen a3. And just put a queen on a5 like that. Maybe it could be done.
Anand, just strategically, white is a pawn down. How are you holding this position?
Queen a3, queen c3, and then... what is black's winning plan? How is black going to exchange the pieces and convert? That's my kind of point.
Does black want to go c3 at some point and create just a
Rook
passer?
a4.
Okay, he does block it.
Queen b6.
And now if your queen could get back to a3 and you feel very active.
Queen d6 might not be a bad thing here. Queen d6.
Just try, so you... Oh.
Oh,
That is
wow,
nice.
I
But
missed
oh, this is clever.
Oh, this rook on e8. So I think Nodirbek.
Nodirbek just reminding Pragg and everyone else that he used to be called a calculating beast as well.
Yeah.
So they're going to split that title. But now it is a draw. So.
Yes. Wow, that was a very good
That was
awareness
nice, yeah.
from Nodirbek there.
Grishchuk, Erigaisi should be a draw. Yeah.
Wow, and
And
there's a
worst
lot
game.
going on in the Vidit versus Gukesh board.
Okay.
This one we're predicting will end in a draw. So do you want to quickly move on to Vidit versus Gukesh?
Wow.
And
let's do
MVL
that.
has beaten Vincent.
Yes. So,
So
Maxime.
that Maxime has won that.
But Vidit, look at this position for him. Whoa.
It's over.
The queen. I thought he was blundering his queen, but he's attacking the black queen
Yeah.
on c5 as well.
And let's get a close up on our players as they're playing under 10 seconds.
And the knight goes back to I feel like there's huge blunder potential in a position of this nature. And trades queens.
And rook f2 because he couldn't play g3, so that pawn hanging on.
We know Vidit's made illegal moves in here in Kolkata before, but not in this game. And black suddenly has a lot of activity.
Yes.
Okay, watch out! Don't move this knight anytime soon. That would be a tragic error.
But Vidit is cleaning up. I mean, he's exchanging the bishop. He's also made progress. Oh, thank you very much for the second pawn. I
And-
mean, f5.
He's going
That's
for,
fine as well. Knight f6, lovely square.
but
Even takes.
really,
Yes.
he chooses the
Mhm.
keep more. He wants to go for a checkmate later against his black king.
So now it's stopped. He can play h4, h5, for instance. He can play h4, king f3, g4. The people always do something other than one.
And
And
Blitz.
Pragg is winning.
What?
That completely drawn position.
Okay.
Nodirbek, he could have gone rook behind the pass pawn, but he's gone rook b4 instead.
Let's
That's a questionable decision. Rook b8 now, and it's over. Rook b8 and it's resigned.
Wow. Should we go to the Pragg game?
Yeah,
Yeah.
as Vidit continues
Because
to
that'll be a
push
4
this
out of 4.
one.
Yeah.
The tournament leader.
So let's go to the Nodirbek against Praggnanandhaa, and ooh, he went rook b3. He takes g3. He transfers his advantage to the king side.
Okay,
but
that's also
another
fine because
one.
you cannot defend h4, so much more direct. But I wonder if, I mean, it's going too fast. If the king had could have gone to the third, I mean h3 or something, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, this
And
is,
now g5. Okay, it's time to resign.
he finds it, and Nodirbek, who fought so valiantly both in game 3 and in this one, he resigns.
Handshakes.
Yeah.
Wow, 4 out of 4 for Pragg. And we still have Vidit as well, who is fighting to win his game.
He's fighting to
Or
draw it
now,
now.
I'm not sure
He's lost
anymore.
everything. He
Uh-oh.
lost the farm, so...
And Vidit might lose the game, and this g pawn is so fast.
Actually, knight d8, yeah. And then king f4. And if rook a4, I have king g5. And for the moment,
He wants to
F6?
get to
f6, okay.
the a pawn.
Well, I can do
wants.
the same thing on a3. And then knight d3 check. Now must be very almost winning.
He goes with the king first.
Yeah, because knight d3, f4, and then g3. And then I can push all the way down.
Yeah, this really
Oh.
turned around.
Knight d3 check.
He goes rook d3 instead, so it's very difficult to find these best moves in
Yeah.
Blitz chess, but
Oh, he wants to take on f5, okay. Now just move the rook somewhere and hope for knight d3. Would be a good cheapo. Okay, but now rook a2.
but at some point, white is of course going to try to set up a knight sacrifice for these two pawns, and you don't have knight e2 so easily because rook a3 check. No, this is
Yeah.
great play.
But wait, now rook f4. He gets one pawn back. Rook f3. And then what does he want to do?
Can he take on f3? If he played rook f3?
No, sorry. He wants to take a rook f6, excuse me.
Ah,
And
but this now looks like a draw.
this
right?
is a draw.
So you just give the knight for
It's
the
a
pawn?
draw in any format except Blitz. Let's just clarify that. So knight g6.
Oh, don't take it. Rook a3 check in the end.
Good try by Gukesh. And okay, now the king is on f4. Everything is staring at this pawn. Feels like rook d2 check, and you can even sacrifice for this knight at some point.
King f4 back. What do you want to do? Yeah.
Yeah, and for Vidit, he was pushing hard against Krischuk, so close, and this one as well. It's been tough to convert these positions.
Oh, I forgot he had 2 knights and a pawn.
Okay, now knight f2 check takes g4 actually works because we attack. So they're just going to repeat, yeah.
Well, that's
much cleaner.
That's such a nice. I would never look at putting my knight in the corner,
Wow.
but Vidit finds it. He makes a draw,
Yeah.
and that is good news for him in his tournament because he's at a plus score.
He's at a plus score with some winning chances in that one that were
But
missed.
Pragg
and-
4 out of 4.
Yeah,
Pragg is
unbelievable.
unstoppable. Should we, as we look at the results here, Praggnanandhaa wins with black.
Let's just quickly see how he won that pawn, because when there's one pawn each on the queen side and you win that one.
Well, I guess first of all we should go back to see how Nodirbek, that was really beautiful stuff by him when he was able to win this pawn on the A file. So
With queen f4.
yeah, around here where he goes just to show everybody, because I think it's a bit confusing. But this right here, where he was able to take this pawn on c4, because if black takes on c4, the e8 rook is hanging, not just hanging, but checkmate.
Wait,
Yeah.
I've got a... it's a pity. You don't get the... So I just want to have a laugh about queen c6. Just go back
Okay.
one second. Rook d and queen c6. So queen takes c6. Rook takes d8. Oh, wait. Oh, queen b5, rook c8 works. No, I wanted to do the famous Torre thing, which is rook c5 and queen a4, rook c4, but there's a queen a1 check.
But you've
But the thing, but so we have one anyway.
Wow, that's
so we
beautiful.
would have gotten this famous
Wow.
historical
it's
game.
so beautiful because the queen can't deliver a check, otherwise black would
okay,
win.
so it works even.
But it's good for
So
white.
he would have to take on d8 and make a draw that way. So queen c6 would have been much faster.
Wow, that's actually very sweet. But how does he lose this b pawn is the big question, because at this
Probably by
stage,
trying. I think there's a winning attempt here that backfired.
Oh.
Is my hunch.
well, I think he made this king h2 move, and then his queen is offside. So
It's not seriously offside. I mean, what's his next move? No, he could have gone queen g5.
and make a draw this way. So I think your claim is even if you lose this pawn, it's still
Yeah, the computer is going some rook before a4, but that's nothing.
right.
Nothing's really happening there.
Yeah, white can just play f4 to defend. So
Yes.
this would have been a cleaner way.
But okay, let's say even if I had gone queen d6.
And here after queen e2, you have queen b7. Is that what he was worried about?
This is also fine because
Yeah,
the
let's just
queen
show
is
that.
hanging out on the long diagonal. Of course, the question is how do I get in rook d7 or something?
But do you think, as Tanya was saying, he was afraid of queen here and some kind of queen b7?
That would be my hunch. But you get to play e4. Or you're forced in d4, whichever you feel.
So he survives in this
Yeah.
way. But how did he lose the pawn? So rook c4 back, and queen f1.
Okay, still I don't see how we lost the pawn. Queen e4 back. Oh, nudge the
Whoa.
thing. Yeah, queen f3, king g7.
Oh.
What is rook e2? Why not rook d7?
Yeah, rook d7 looks very good, and then you
Yeah.
force the queen
Yeah.
trade, and
And that's it.
Yeah.
So there was quite actually simple draw.
so he blundered in one move by getting
Right.
passive, and then he's pinned.
And he actually had more time than Pragg at this moment.
And it's interesting because
Anyway, let's just see what happened at rook e1. Oh, this...
he didn't go here. Like this just wins the game. On the
he
spot.
took the pawn instead. Following your advice. When you see mate in 2,
Look for better.
look for the pawn ending. Look for better. So
Yeah, he showed his class, But he also had 5 seconds remaining.
I've never seen your principle put in practice, but here we are.
Yeah, see, he looked for better, and then he wins the end game. But he looked like a pro, He looked extra
Yeah.
pawn, gives a check, and then goes to the 3rd rank, and cleans up. So
Yeah.
clearly the time
Yeah.
trouble was the reason for these blunders, but a huge win for Praggnanandhaa because he's now just cleaning up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we also did not really see how it turned around in Vidit's game. Should we just take a look at the critical moment there before we've got a couple of minutes before the start of next round?
Okay, let's check it out. Of course, in Blitz, there are always going to be mistakes. Oh, this is way too late. Where were we? Like around here.
Yeah.
It started looking very good for white. 2 extra pawns.
Maybe you should have just played f5 and cashed the run in.
So you think over here you should just went f5?
f5.
Yeah.
Gf5, knight f5. Oh, and I protected the c4 pawn by bonus. So
Oh.
that's a
Nice.
clincher.
See, rook takes c4. Everybody's met by knight,
Knight
d6.
d6. Oh, that was just much easier then.
I think we can.
And there is rook d7, to be fair. But after knight d6, there is rook d7, but rook df1 or even rook b1 will win. Rook b1, b8 check, or rook df1 and take on f7. That's it. Yeah.
Crunching on the f7 square, but instead he went knight back, and suddenly Gukesh was able to completely turn this game around. He goes aggressive.
That's why I felt h4 was important, because then I bring my king to h4 and maybe try for h5 or something. But it's true that once the c pawn is there, it's alive and you can't really.
And the mistakes are going to happen. This is.
By the way, he could have gone h4 and then knight g4 e3. There is no way to defend that pawn. So that would have been a plan: h4 and then knight g4 e3.
Ooh, and just go after this.
And then after the doubling, I mean, I
Right.
don't know. It was doubled. at some point.
It was doubled, and he went over.
He
here.
undoubled, yeah, no. So he could have collected that pawn.
Yeah, these mistakes.
But it's Blitz. These people are just playing on pure instinct. So of course, even we have no time to. Whoa!
He got
What's
scared, right? These rooks are bailing down the d file. Knight f4 check is such a big threat.
Oh, it's very cute. King e3 goes knight b4,
Oh,
raising
nice.
raising a fork.
oh.
So,
Tactics.
but then you can still go rook cd2 and then I don't know, knight c2 check, and God knows what happens.
But this is clearly good for black because suddenly no more material deficit and even material, but black is the best pawn, better rook.
How did he lose this? He went king e2. No, h3 and then rook.
Yeah, he ended up surviving in the end, right? The knight
Yeah.
h1, but okay, clear that black was in the upper hand, and what a clever draw
was
this
winning
was
at some
the
point.
end.
Yeah.
Missing some wins, of course, Blitz chess, but Tanya,
Yeah.
Vidit survives and he stays well on the scoreboard.
He does, and the other player who does get moving on the scoreboard, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, winning his game against Vincent. Rishi, should we have a look at that one?
Sure.
Oh, the final position, I think we can
Extra
tell.
piece, f7 falling.
This was the game that was very locked up, right? All
Yeah, the
pawn
tension in the center. Yeah.
So it looks like it was resolved at this point, and then here, queen d3, black is doing well, but that,
Maybe he could have taken on e5 first or something before doing that.
yeah, looks like it. You can take on, this looks like a very normal move though, so I'm wondering
Yeah.
where things really turned around, because black is in great shape.
Oh, this one, some trick, but still, you just step aside with the queen and there's nothing happening.
Okay, so but still, black is doing very well here. We have to figure out where he blundered, because maybe around here he felt like he was in some danger, but isn't black just up a pawn?
Yeah, just a clay pawn. So he must have blundered somewhere.
Let's see. Okay,
Oh, and suddenly all the boys came home.
but this is
Knight
still.
c6 and then e4.
Ooh,
Oh.
and e5 is coming. And you
Well,
can't
e5.
fight
You
it.
could have played e5, but maybe, I don't know if f4 works or something.
He just simply blundered e5.
Oh.
Yeah.
No time. But black probably has to play e5, but it's getting very uncomfortable for the king and being tied down. So,
Yeah.
okay, this happens in Blitz chess. And Maxime, he played very quickly, earned himself a point, and that heads us into round 5 with Pragg and clear first 4-4.
Maxime did this in Norway chess in the Blitz at one point. He started with 0 out of 5. And he was walking on a bit of shock because he was the reigning World Blitz champion. He was 0 out of 5. And then he won the last 4.
Yeah.
So here he's only 0 to 3 and already got his comeback. So we'll say if he continues that.
He learned
And
his lesson.
we've started again, right?
We have. And
So Hari against Pragg.
yes.
Pragg is white, by the way. So
Just trying to even gather my bearings. So the pairings of Gukesh is against MVL. Normally that would be such a huge matchup for first place, but it's all Pragg right now. He's 4 out of 4.
yeah,
And if he can win this, with such a long tournament, we don't call it until day 2. But I mean, 5 out of 5, you start feeling invincible.
5 out of 5. I can't come up with any criticism of that start. So,
And they played. Well, when they played the first time, was that the game where Hari moved his knight a million times? That was these two,
yes,
right?
yes. That was both of them. Yes, exactly.
But the a5 square is under the pawn's control, so the knight can't. It's not legal for the knight to go to a5 now. Looks solid. Tanya, any other more adventurous games to start the round?
Yes.
Arjun
and
playing his favorite exchange Slav against
let's get an
Vidit.
update.
Okay.
Kaimer and Abdusattorov playing some English that I do not understand. And Timur, is that a piece sacrifice?
Yeah, let's
Oh.
bring
Is that a
up
forced
this
piece
board.
Okay, so he's gone thing. And now if b4, I think his idea must be e5. Because what else? I mean, if
Yeah.
you move your knight and I play b3, c3, it should be good, right?
But Grishuk
He's gone
took.
for this instead. But
Al-
now
also-
I can play
also,
e5 and knight e4 or
Timur
a5.
has as much time as he started with. So there's clearly some kind of preparation, at least for Blitz chess. And b4, the engine doesn't like because it says it turns it around in white's favor.
White's favor.
Yes, as white is to be preferred here. But okay, this is...
Oh, so it must be e5. Knight d5, and I have the knight e4, and maybe some bishop g5 and stuff. Knight f2, ft2, c4, these are ideas.
Huge
I could play e5, knight f d7 to try and play c5, but then something strong might happen on e6 or f7.
Oh, and e5 played, so we'll see. Oh, he goes knight to d5, but... Oh, interesting. Like this looks so clean for white.
Yeah, but if I play h6, then you go knight f d2 maybe. He's got knight d7, allowing bishop g5.
Oh, the end. This is
But maybe some knight f g5 was possible. Queen c7, a mistake.
Okay, I maybe f6. I mean, it looks so suspicious, but f6 potentially.
But what else? So it clearly wanted to go queen b6 or queen b8 or something like that.
And okay,
Wow,
well now it
and
looks
the
black.
bar
Look at
is
how
going
quickly.
crazy. What happened here? Why? Is
Maybe
it
I can
such
just
a
play
big
g5,
advantage?
bishop g3, and your bishop is on the wrong side of... Or knight f4 maybe, and c5, knight f4.
So knight
Oh.
f4, you're hitting the bishop. Bishop
c4, c5.
Is there some bishop e6 stuff?
There's a knight
Oh,
on
knight
f4.
on f4. So I might have to push it first with my knight on e4 hangs. Maybe you can show knight f4 ideas and c5 opening up the bishop.
But rook f1.
Yeah, it's still compensation, right? This looks like a mess, but I think that getting c5 in is a huge.
It's not only a mess, it's a blitz mess. So
Which makes it
Gukesh,
messier.
I would say Gukesh is almost winning against MVL.
So
The
Azarada
position looks just
taking
huge to me.
Yeah, let's
a
go.
lot of time. Yeah,
Let's
go
take
to
a quick look
Gukesh.
at Gukesh MVL.
Okay. What is happening?
Wouldn't you agree this is just
Oh.
almost lost for black? Yeah, I mean the computer agrees, but just a4, a5. I mean the pawns on c4 and d4 are the most beautiful I've seen.
And white's king is super safe in the center.
Maybe black can even just take rook takes d4 here.
It almost looks like a position where black thinks that white already castled, and then you have
Yeah.
clear compensation.
Rook d4 now would...
Oh my
Whoa.
gosh. So you want to go e3 next?
Oh.
Is it on the board?
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe a4 was... you can't castle because of gh4, but some
Can we show what
sensible
happens if
waiting move.
white actually takes on d4? Because this is crazy.
But this is, I mean, it's such a great idea
Queen
by
c3,
Maxime.
but it's still good for white. It's just that at least black won't just have to sit and await the developments.
Well,
He's
let me
not going to take.
And he's saying a5, okay. Oh, a5, knight d7, queen b2, and the rooks can no longer support each
he
other. That was
blundered-
the problem.
He blundered on the spot.
Yeah, but it might have been lost anyway.
Can you just take this and get a
Yes.
new queen?
Nice.
And then rook d1.
No, why not queen d2, rook d2, b8?
Oh,
See it.
you're right. You're right. You could take this rook and then take on a7 and get a new queen.
Wait, queen d2, rook d2, a7,
Yes. You're.
queen, rook a2.
Oh,
Let's just try that.
Oh
yeah,
my
just
gosh.
quickly show.
Oh, he's gone
He
ba7
went
because of
B8.
He's
what?
gone BS. No, yes, he's gone
Yes,
BS.
I'm
Oh, because the queen a4 check takes c2.
Yes.
That's why. So it's over.
So
Here, rook a2, queen b4 check might be a mess.
yeah, just to show quickly, that would have been messy. So instead, we get to the game. He takes on a7, gets
And
a
now
queen.
queen a4 check and handshake time.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
you pick up the c2 rook. Wow, nice tactics there.
wow. Full board awareness from Gukesh, and just like he did against Praggnanandhaa yesterday.
When that pawn was on a3, did you see it coming back to via a4 to c2,
And
Robert?
handshakes
but,
already.
but I think Gukesh did.
And can we criticize Gukesh for not looking for better?
No, this time I'll applaud him. But Maxime, he stopped the bleeding. He got a win, but now he's back to another loss, and Gukesh evens up his
Keimer
score.
is playing a beautiful game.
Okay.
I mean, anytime you exchange down, you better hope it's beautiful. But
Oh, the light square control is.
it may not be that much because there's rook f1 coming in. How do I stop that? But okay, takes.
So, is rook f1?
Rook F1.
Yes, this
Then
ended.
Yeah, but
A5,
take and I go
G5.
g4. Oh, a5 is hanging. Oh,
Yeah.
so then one of the two pawns. Oh, then it's just beautiful.
Well, so great awareness from Keimer, and with not so much time on his clock, that he's winning one more
Wait,
pawn.
wait. I go rook f1, king f1, a4.
So
Humor
you-
me.
So you're giving up the g5 pawn?
And then I'm going to go e4, and if d4, I'm going to go d3 and attack b2.
But maybe e4, you can go king e2.
Yes.
Yes. So what we're talking about is after the
Yeah,
exchange
it's
of
just
rooks,
over.
black at some point needs to get desperate and sacrifice a pawn, but it's not going to land in the direction. So which game should we?
Should we head over to
Pragg to
Praggnanandhaa
Hari.
against Hari?
Let's go, because Praggnanandhaa 4 out of 4 thus far. Vincent Keimer looks like he's about to beat Abdusattarvin. What is this mess?
At first,
Oh,
it
he's
feels like black
producing
has
a
lot of-
weakness on c6. But
loose
maybe
pieces.
bishop z6, knight c6, bc is not a bad thing. I mean, if I play c5 and rook a8, I have no problems.
I've
at
always
all.
felt that double pawns in Blitz are just terrible. That's how I've always felt strongly about that. That because our human instincts take over. We're worried that they're going to fall. We just don't like them, really.
But that knight on e6 is going to defend both of them.
Yeah, no, the knight's a hero. But I don't know. I don't think there's a choice here. I agree. Oh, b6.
That looks like it's harder than it needs to be, because is that bishop coming back? Queen c3, bishop b5. What is he going to go? a4 or what? Knight f5. Okay. Knight f5, rook d5.
So are there knight takes h6?
Knight takes h6.
Yeah, that looks very strong.
Knight takes h6. Yep.
So if you take knight g6, it's game over.
And if you don't, it's game over. Knight g, f7 and knight g6. Okay.
Oh, nice.
What is the kid on?
What is 6 out of 6? Unbelievable.
Don't give him he didn't win next round yet. It's 5 out of 5.
Oh, 5 out of 5.
But
Yeah.
it seems like he's 6 out of 5 the way he's playing. but
Wait, Vidit played rook f6. We do have to bounce across games. Hang on. Vidit went rook f6.
Yeah.
What is happening there?
this looks like Pragg is
Oh,
winning. So let's
wow.
go to Vidit's game and just see what is.
He's a piece up.
By the way, Hari
some
has
pawns,
resigned, so Pragg is on 5 out of 5.
Yes. And Vidit here just taking it to Arjun. Oh, by the way, before the event started, I did pick Pragg to win,
Yes.
just to be.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's just making me proud. But this is a clean extra piece for. Oh wait, how many pawns does White have? 3?
Yeah, no, it's not that clean, but
Yeah.
yes. But most important. Oh, now I'll take take on b4, and White is out of danger. So bishop b5 was really careful. But it's hard to coordinate in this thing, and it's not that it's that easy anyway.
Does Black have any winning chances here? Would you say?
So Kaima cleaned up against Abdusattorov.
Yeah, he won.
Um,
It's the only live game remaining.
This one is a draw.
This one
Yes.
is now okay.
Any chances at all? Nah, not really. 'cause
Rook
you put a
c3,
pawn
bishop
F3.
e8, and f7, and collective thing, and then 3 was a draw.
But that's
yeah.
having these marathon fights in this blitz. Over 100 moves. That's
Yeah, he had his game against Grisham.
How many moves is this so far?
This
100.
move is.
this is
only
gonna touch
40.
it.
40.
It might touch. It might touch 100 moves.
They might play forever, but h4.
Is there a universe where this rook gets very well, so many moves are coming in. That's the nature of Blitz. But I was wondering if that rook no. That's a
Yeah, that's definitely a technical
They
that did
fixed
not
it.
happen. And let's also zoom into the players as they blitz out their moves. And we'll have our analysis board up.
I don't see why he came to g1. It could go and sit on g3, but
probably the outside fear of a bishop getting to f1. Just
yes, and then he. But still, nothing is going to happen if I play h4 and then keep waiting. The problem for you is even if you exchange rooks, it might be a draw. So,
yeah. I think the only way White can lose is if this rook ends up on g3 and gets stuck there. Like if you can probably get Zugzwang from there. But that's
yes.
why you should he's keeping the rook on the 4th rank rather than on some passive position over here.
But just throw in h4. It can't be bad.
So Vidit, his game against Grishuk was 173 moves. So he is just having the marathon day of Blitz chess. And he had, did you see that game? He had 2 knights against a lone king.
No, I did not see that.
Have
game.
you ever had that?
I had 2 knights against, but there must have been a pawn, king and pawn.
No. Just 2 knights against a king. They
But
played
that's
it,
a draw.
No,
Yeah,
of course, but they played
played
it
on
out.
forever. Grishuk had a bishop. He sacrificed the bishop, and then it went into a pure 2 knight versus king.
So by your surprise, it sounds like you have never had that.
No, I've. The moment my opponent took the pawn, sacrificed his pawn. I think I was once winning against Bangua, but I had no idea how to win it. So
Let's point out the clock is not correct. With it hasn't flagged here.
Yeah, that will fix when. I think the DGT froze for a second, so the moves will all come in. That's the nature of when they're on their final seconds. When I think of your game against Wang Yu, I don't think of that game. I think the exchange sacrifice.
sure.
That's the beauty that I think about. And we have no idea. He did push a pawn, so the counter will restart, but hopefully the board will.
No, now Arjun is in trouble. Bishop f5 check, g4, bishop d3.
Oh, you can
and
see the
this is-
position that closely.
Yeah, but what is bishop c2? You should just go bishop. Where the hell is that rook anyway?
Yeah, it looks like
We're getting.
Some trades. Rook
wait.
bishop versus rook, maybe?
Wait, no, but the white king is like almost checkmated. It looks like. So hopefully, the rook.
Let's bring up our analysis board.
Oh, what is?
Or
rook
what-
is
We just the
c1.
DGT.
Rook c1, rook c1. Rook c1.
Oh.
I can't even see.
This is
Yeah.
not the position.
No.
Yeah. Let's
Yeah.
head back as our DGT board. Let's go back to the players in the playing hall.
But that king on h3, so the king f4. That king.
No, rook f2 check. King f4 was.
Oh wow.
Take the pawn, of course. No, but the problem for Arjun, he might have the technique, but it's blitz chess, and I feel like that's where it just gets very worrisome. But he has the second rank defense by design.
Yeah.
But with Blitz, it's still complicated to defend this position. It's not easy.
No, not at all.
Anand, have you won rook bishop versus rook?
I don't think I've ever had rook and bishop versus rook.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow, it's quite a common one.
I mean, I had it once with black in blitz, and then actually I played it accurately for 45 moves, and then blundered my rook. So
You were on the defense.
I was in the defense. Yeah.
This is looking.
This is
Oh.
no, it's just
Yeah,
about right because that king was supporting the rook. So rook f5 was important.
Yes.
If the rook had been in f8, this would be a theoretical
And
loss.
he knows the drawing technique here, but
Yeah.
I feel like don't you get confused sometimes? Like even though it's the same, just with the like a shift,
Yeah.
a degree shift of the board, sometimes it just gets confusing for players.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're getting
A
a
Cochrane defense.
Cochrane, yes. Shen or Cochrane or whatever.
Perfect.
Yeah, going to the office. Oh, lovely.
Definitely an over 100 move game.
Yeah, maybe we can even remove the board from the screen, use the full screen of the players. Yes.
And
And could we zoom in?
yeah, if we could zoom on into the board, that would be great here.
Also, I wonder if Arjun was keeping count of how many moves it's been since the pawn was captured, because it's a 75 move by the arbiters.
Okay, this is already twice. King e8, and I think they have had this exact position before. But king d8, okay. The last time it was king d5 and king f8. So
Do you think Arjun is going to claim, or he'll just wait for the arbiter to step in?
so far he's making the easy moves.
Yeah, he's doing everything right.
He's confident, so he might just wait for the 75 move instead of claiming at 50.
But 75, the arbiter stops it, right?
Yes.
And that happened with Grushuk and Pitt earlier.
Oh,
we get a close up of the board.
Yeah, that king has run away from the side of the board, which is very good news for Arjun, but he's been confident this whole way.
Yeah, but I think a white king that's back in the center is not a good sign for black.
No, not in the slightest.
It was bang on the center. It was on e5. That's not good.
But
For progress.
sometimes he's doing everything right. He's pinning the bishop from a distance, and
Yeah.
he can even move his king further. And he does. Oh, very nicely done by Arjun.
And looks like he's going to hold this, which would mean that we'd have 3 decisive wins with the white pieces in this round.
This game, I really want to know what move it is. Even more so, again, the exact position. I would love to know what move number we're on, because
King h5.
wait, is the king on the final rank, final file?
No, but this is tricky because it's the
Yeah.
same position, but the board rotated.
And
Yeah.
So then it's
that's
quite hard to
tricky.
play
Yes.
because you're fighting anti-gravity now. You're not going e2 to e8. You're going in the other direction.
But he did the right thing. He went rook b4 there, so he
Yeah.
really
Knows the
is clean on
defense.
this. Is this something that you recommend even these super grandmasters to just continuously practice? Because sometimes people know it, but then they forget it.
I know. I keep telling myself I should check this ending once a month, and I end up checking it once a year. That's how it goes.
But hopefully the once a year is not at the board. It's the comfort of your home. Because even very, very strong players have, of course, lost this
Of course.
endgame.
Yeah.
Endings are maybe the hardest for humans relative to computers.
But Arjun's playing with speed as well. He's very confident of this hold. How much time does he have?
Considering that
He can throw
Oh,
in
and
a
he's
claim.
claiming
He
now.
can, yeah,
I
he can
think
throw
he's
in a claim,
claiming.
I think, because come on, they made so many moves.
Got to be more than 50, no?
yeah, it looks like
Oh, they're checking? And if it isn't, if it hasn't reached 50 moves, then Vidit will get an extra minute on the clock and the game continues.
that's right. The minute I don't think is what's gonna help
Yeah.
Vidit win the game, because they
Oh, and that's it. It
Yeah,
has
it's,
crossed
they've
50
played
moves.
for so long.
And with that, Arjun holds 3 decisive games, all won by white. Praggnanandhaa on fire, keeps going. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave lost to Gukesh in that brilliant game that we saw. And meanwhile, it was Vincent Keimer scoring the 3rd victory with white in a nice technical finish.
And these are
What are our standings?
yep.
Let's bring up our standings going into round 6.
Okay, we will
We
bring this
had
up
an
in a second.
accidental prediction from Tanya.
Yeah, she did say.
These are the results of the previous round, and as we were saying, Gukesh scoring a win, and this is what it is. Wow, a 1.5 point lead.
Already, yeah.
Yeah. This is a big Vishy, and we often speak about going on tilt when it comes to speed chess, but it works the other way around as well. When you're feeling on form, you feel unstoppable.
Definitely, and 5 out of 5 speaks for itself. So.
Oh, I never thought I'd hear Vishy say that.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even mean to do that. It's a normal expression in English before he used it. Come on. So.
It does though, but Grishuk, I feel like he keeps flying under the radar here. He had a very nice performance in the Rapid with a plus score here with 3.5 out of 5, and Vidit there in third place. I feel like Vidit, as you know, Taimur and yourself were complimentary of him, it seems like he has improved his speed chess play.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just 3 minutes before liftoff for round 6, let's bring up our matchups that are coming in and get some predictions.
Okay, with round 6 coming up, Pragg would like to hold you to your word, Tanya. 6 out of 6 is what he aims for.
But he's playing the 3 times world Blitz champion. It's Pragg versus Grishuk. How do you expect this one to play out?
I don't expect things in Blitz. I just see them unfold. All 3 results would not surprise me, let's put it that way. Even with Pragg's form,
Yeah.
look, everything comes to an end, and Grishuk
Yeah,
has all the experience you need in Blitz. So.
absolutely. A 3 times world Blitz champion. Let's bring up our pairings for the upcoming round.
Yes, and you know, as we said, Grishuk and Pragg, that's a matchup of first and second, but some other great matchups as well. Gukesh against Arjun, I keep wanting to say all Indian teenager clash, but then I remind myself Arjun just turned 20 the other day.
He did, and we also have Nodebek taking on Maxime. Nodebek will play with the black pieces. Hari Krishna against Vincent. Pragg, 5 out of 5, takes on Alexander Grishuk. Vidit against Taimur Rajabov.
Such great matchups. And how did Nodebek do in the last game? He lost.
Nodebek lost to Vincent
Of course,
in that
that
endgame.
bishop ending. So Vincent is on a high, and I guess, Vishy, how you've played in the World Blitz Championship and you know all these big events. How do you recover from a loss when you have 2 minutes to do so? Is it that easy to just sit down and play the next game?
In Blitz, especially these 9 rounds a day, or in World Rapid, it's even more, 12 one day and 11 the next, and so on. You have no time to recover. The beauty is you can have 3 losses in a row, and then you can go from that to 4 wins in a row, and all streaks are possible. Multiple streaks are possible in a day, and you just have to let go of this idea that you'll have any control. You just go and play every time. At least I throw myself to the 4 wins, and that's my attitude during a game. I don't try to during a tournament, because when there are that many games happening and constantly, you have no idea what you're capable of, and I mean that in a negative way as well. So you just you just go with the flow.
And Maxime had this fantastic performance in the Rapid, but he's struggling today in the tournament in Blitz. How does that work?
I don't know that I necessarily have an explanation. It can happen. Maybe the first game affected him, maybe it didn't, but these are small margins. In the Rapid, he had the time and the ability to play very precisely, and here maybe he's just, or maybe he's adjusting the change in format. I mean, there are umpteen rules, so umpteen things that could have happened.
So it's not a given that you perform well in one format, you'll be able to repeat it.
Nothing's given in chess. You can, if the field is strong enough, you should always go in with the feeling that anything can happen.
Anything can happen in this game as well. Let's bring up, as we've got action, and Bishop G5. Does that surprise you?
Nothing surprises me anymore. They also play Bishop F4. So head 6. Now he might go Bishop F4. No, he went Bishop H4.
Striking at the center with his knight, and for Grishuk, he played this funny Bishop A5 move yesterday.
That was brilliant.
It was.
I'm
really
still trying
awesome.
to understand what's the point.
Apparently, I didn't speak to him, but I heard that he rattled off like some ideas behind it. So
Yeah.
you know, because he was asked what was the point of that move, and he's like, oh, there's all this deep preparation behind it, which is cool.
It's amazing.
And here we see that Grishuk, he's down 15 seconds on the clock, a closed position thus far.
Why not E3?
That's a he'll probably play E3, but take his sweet time beforehand.
That's exactly right.
Although sometimes you have to, of course, watch out for everybody's a G5 can hit you and a knight E4 and things of that nature.
And Arjun very much with his pet hobby horse, this old, what is it called? Manhattan system of the Rogozin, right?
Oh, so I mean, I have to go there now. So Gukesh and Arjun, the clash.
Are you from Manhattan?
I'm from Manhattan.
Okay, then that's your variation. That's your variation.
You said it, and I felt absolutely obligated to go. And this type of position where there's no tension in the center, black has put the pawn on c4. I thought historically, traditionally they say that white, because you control this pawn break in the center, it's usually pretty nice. But how is your experience?
Well, they used to play g6, bishop h3, knight e4 without queen a6.
Right.
But Arjun has been playing this quite innovatively. He's been finding new ideas, also some new plans, and so I'm sure he has some new twist. I'm pretty sure Gukesh will know what he's up to as well. I mean, I'm sure they study each other's ideas. So
they study with each other and also against each other.
Definitely.
I think we have to go back to the Pragg game just because things are heating up on that board between our tournament leader and Vishy. Oh, this one also is heating up with e4 by
e4.
Gukesh. But look at this one. G4 push and a3 just at the right time to stop this nasty pin. Do you think it works out for white?
Yes, he's going to pawn down, but 2 bishops. So in fact, not even a pawn down, because I'll go knight e5, knight d4, e3, knight f5, knight takes g4, and get my pawn back.
But it feels like a very adventurous play from Grishuk here, and
but this looks horrible for Arjun, right?
Okay, we'll go back to Arjun's game. Let's see
Excuse me.
Yeah.
G5.
Oh.
Still, it looks crappy.
The king is open. You haven't developed your queen side. And this queen moved how many times? Queen a5, queen a6, queen c6. Too many.
Yeah, I was just explaining that Arjun has lots of new ideas here, but maybe some of them are bad. So.
But this happens in Blitz, right? You just get it.
You mix up your moves, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So why is white thinking right now? Yeah, bishop g3.
Because there was d5 as well, maybe.
So considering that, and that's always in the
But that pawn on d4 is restraining the knight on d7, so you might want to leave it alone for a bit. And
this knight can't easily
why
move.
commit anything? Also, after a3, I could aim knight d6 maybe.
So Gukesh clearly in charge in this game.
And there is a huge eval bar shift on the Vidit Temur board. If you want to quickly just take a look at that, Vidit.
Something has gone wrong in Temur's QGD because there's a knight on d6, there's one knight ready to go to h5,
He goes
or even reinforced each other, e4 and d6.
Can go in either direction, right? You don't know where this knight's heading, g5 or c5. And it feels like white has had several free moves because black's rooks are on their, well, I would say starting squares, but the castled square and the starting square. Oh, this looks terrible.
Yeah, knight g5.
Yeah, clear attack for white over here. So looking very good.
Vidit, even in the rapid, he had a really nice game and a good result against Rajabov, and here as well from the start, being the one who's pushing. Do you think it's something to do with their styles that Vidit's able to get this kind of advantage against Temur?
You can go years without getting an advantage against Temur, and
That's true.
then you're better 3 times in 2 days.
He's done what most people can't in their whole lifetime. The knights have jumped onto the c5, d6 square.
I really wanted to go to g5, but c5, I can't say it's bad, but I really wanted to go to g5 because I was hoping for some hits of an action.
This is one of these positions where you see a player resign as black, and everyone's confused. Even material, what happened here? It's black has no control of this board. And now I definitely want my knight on g5 so I could take on h7.
But I could take knight d8 takes b7. Oh, then rook b8 and he gets back in time.
Trying to get some counterplay. You lose a pawn, you open a file.
Rook e4. This is keeping pressure.
I feel like Vidit's been in amazing form. I mean, even though he lost the game to Maxime and had some wins and losses, I feel like the fighting is really there.
And if you compare it with his previous performances in Kolkata, this year he's clearly up a notch. He's playing much, much better. And as Temur himself mentioned that yesterday, that Vidit is just playing.
He just hoped that he didn't do it against him.
Yes.
He just play well against everybody else, but not me. And Tanya, I think you saw another interesting game.
Yeah, I think it's time to head back to the Pragg Grishuk board with Grishuk under 30 seconds right now. Both have castle queen side. And Pragg with the bishop pair. But how do you evaluate this position?
There's a pawn missing on d4. How did he lose it?
But there's a pawn missing on the G file.
Yes, how did they swap those two? But anyway,
Level
black is
material.
fine. White probably isn't worse,
Ooh.
but black is fine.
It's a nice way to develop the rook.
Yeah, coming
Yeah.
to the king side, and that could lead to an attack. This bishop on G7, of course, a great piece. I think I like Grishuk's last move so much that I'm starting to favor, at least from a practical perspective, White's position.
So rook b4.
Which game is crazy?
It's an absolute crazy
Gukesh,
position in the
Arjun.
Gukesh Arjun if you want to quickly jump
Yes.
to that.
Let-
There's
What?
a traffic jam on
What
the
is
E5.
happening? Yeah.
This knight is pinned, so that you're never going to be able to take this rook. It kind
But
of feels
now
like black is
some
solid.
queen b2.
Oh. Going for this diagonal here?
Is that the word that springs to mind, Robert? Solid.
Yes, it does. It's a good control of the light squares. Hey, Timur taught me a lesson, you know? The pleasant positions.
Well, yes. I love that one.
No, this position looks very bad for black, whose king is just
MVL
making
is
a mad
killing
dash.
Abdusatorov. That looks a beautiful position. But let's
and
finish this
yeah.
first.
Wait,
hang
but
on.
what just happened? He's making a series of trades here. Because the queen
Well,
is
because the
overloaded.
e5 queen f5 check is very strong, and thank you. Yeah.
No
Okay,
check.
queen
Can you go-
f7,
Uh-oh. Just pressure everywhere.
queen e5. Wow, even better.
Oh.
Queen b8 coming in.
But
as
wait,
well.
rook e8,
Yes, there's some tricks because
Queen b8, queen s.
queen b8, king e7.
Queen s7.
we're going to see all this.
Yeah,
Queen
queen b8, king
e7.
e7. If rook b7, king f8, I don't like, but I can play
Maybe queen s7. Yeah, is that an option?
Yeah, and king.
queen a7. Looks
Wait, what's
nice.
happening to rook e1?
King f8.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's still defended. Everything's defended.
but 5 seconds.
Oh, he's gone for the rook ending because that's winning. King f and king f1.
That was very nice because you stopped the. As long as you can. keep
But
your-
the thing is, your king f6 is clever. He's basically saying the rook needs to jump around. Now I can go a4 for the moment and plug things. a4, wow. But now the rook will come in on b2, and this is
Rook
a
c2?
loss of control. And then rook a3.
no,
Then he
but
will.
White can't move.
Yeah, but he will play h3, g4, f4, everything, and then the rook can plunge again with.
I'm going to leave the decision
But
to you,
it's
but
not,
this will be a technical endgame. Do you want to quickly run over to the leader?
Grishuk? Let's go.
Yes,
Because what?
good question. There were queens on the board when I wanted to go to it, but the players are also playing with
We've
very
been
little
we've
time.
been nattering away on this position for that long, right?
Yeah.
But this position looks very nice for black in terms of an endgame because of the activity here.
Harry beat Vincent.
Yes.
Grishuk is clearly worse.
Grishuk is clearly
Oh,
worse.
rook
Yes.
trade?
What? Why?
Yeah, we're looking at the game right now.
No, he's
Oh, he
blundered a
blundered.
pawn.
Oh, so he's
No, to be honest, I hadn't noticed that Grishuk was getting ready to trade rooks. But with the pair of rooks and my queen side, I mean, if I could have gone king d6, c5, b5, I thought that was
Uh-oh,
better.
we see them on screen here. Grishuk playing very fast up a pawn now. This is looking to spoil the unbeaten streak for Pragg. And you see Pragg trading pawns on the queen side, but
Oh, but this is the thing, because he's now going to weaken those 2 pawns on c6 and b7 and do all that stuff.
With b5 or how? Doesn't allow it?
how do you make progress here? Oh, g4.
Bishop
no, no, not
F1,
g4.
no.
That would lose.
And now d5.
Could you throw in a b5 at some point too, and then try to get b5, b6?
It might be...
Wow.
Hanging in
Ooh,
there.
something happened.
Wait, why not b5 here?
I think he's probably afraid of giving black a passer as well. So
Yes, but when the bishop was on e6, I could take on b7, b4, d5.
right.
I thought I might just be a move faster, but...
It looks like Pragg though. 2 seconds on his clock.
Oh,
He's
he
getting his
makes
moves
a
off.
move. He
And-
made a move with 1 second on the clock.
I mean, this eval bar is a seesaw. It's going up and down. Better for white. Still back in drawing range.
Do you want to break with d5 or b5 in such positions?
I think the problem is the white king can't move. Ooh. Where's maybe now b5?
He's gone for d5.
No, that's the wrong one.
It's the wrong one. He had to go b5, takes d5 maybe.
And b6 played.
Now there is no way to progress.
Because you don't have a passer.
You know, I think he had a
Yeah.
bishop c6 instead of b6 there. Trading bishops probably resulted in a draw. So we can look at that after the game. But
Mhm.
yeah, he went b6 and now he still is holding. It's clear because his
Yeah.
one holds 2 on the side. But
Yeah, now there's no way to forward. And in the meantime,
Oh.
Gukesh lost to Arjun.
mhm.
The lost pawn ending he actually. So Gukesh
Wait,
was the
Arjun
overstep.
won.
Or checkmate.
That's what it says 0-1.
Yes, Gukesh lost to
And
Archer.
Vidit beat Timur.
That-
That was expected.
Yes.
But Arjun winning the 2 pawn down endgame.
Yes.
Blitz is absolutely wild.
And he's still trying to convert this one, but maybe there's really not anything to be done anymore.
Yeah.
You Can you ever get g4 in?
No, it doesn't look like it. They're just gonna repeat moves until the arbiter steps in and says his move. 7. You even saw Grishuk there.
Yeah.
He's a little flustered.
I think it was about getting that b pawn going with
There are too many
b5.
squares for the bishop as well, so you can't even kick him out of the diagonal.
Oh. Yeah, I'm trying to.
But this was the first game that Pragg was slightly in trouble.
Yeah.
And that's it. It ends in a draw. Pragg holds this endgame. We still have one more game on. Let's head over to
And
Maxime versus
I think MVL is
Nandabai.
still going to win this.
Uh-huh.
Um,
So Maxime coming back.
Yes, and just don't push your pawn too soon. That's probably one way that you could let your opponent make a draw. But this looks.
Knight e4 now.
Kind of-
Bishop f2.
Have king e8, king e6.
Knight c5 check and king e6. Knight c5 check and king e6. So you don't have the a6 square, and so it was winning. But it's winning anyway. King g6
King
and knight
g6.
g5. It's over. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants very simple pushes, and this is done. Maxime is going to take it. He could get his bishop here, like right now, and that's. Are we going to see knight and bishop?
Let's watch a knight and
I
bishop.
think
Ah,
we
that's
will.
nice.
Or we might not, because how are you stopping?
Yeah.
Oh, boo.
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave making a comeback in the Blitz with this technical win against Nordebek Abdulsatrov. So a round with 4 decisive results, and finally the hot streak of Pragg comes to a halt with a draw against Grishuk.
I still think a draw with the black piece against Grishuk, that's a pretty hot result. So 5.5 out of 6 for him. But you see the other results. Every other game was decisive. Hari Krishna beats Vincent Keimer, so that's wonderful for him. And Vidit continues his good form, and Arjun somehow wins. I still can't believe that.
The thing is that pawn was stuck, so he might have hit a point where he had to take the draw and refused to.
Yeah.
And if you want, let's take a look at that.
Yeah, let's do a quick look at what actually happened in that game.
I mean, we see the final position, up a rook, so maybe black got a pass pawn or something, but we left, where was it? No, before this. Here, this is where we left off, and to imagine that...
Maybe it's just no way forward. So what happened here? h4. Did he go g4 check? No.
No, he allowed black to go g4.
But now you're running out of moves. A bit.
White doesn't have any moves.
Well, rook a draws, rook a5 draws, but if you keep thinking you're going to win, then you're going to get into trouble.
Oh, wow. So this turned around very quickly, and now suddenly black is better. So they repeat. And
And he did repeat.
Yeah, he's still playing for the win. You called it. Exactly what happened. And king f4.
Oh, that's nice, because rook e5 and then the king is going to saunter to the third. Still have rook e5 check.
He's just going to...
But this is unpleasant. And given where you started, most people will not adjust in time.
Amazing.
And Blitz doesn't give you time to come to terms with anything. You just have to keep playing.
Keep going.
Chundering on.
He went for this pawn.
Oh,
the
and
king
he just
came in.
lost...
He just allowed this pawn to promote,
Oh.
and that's where he resigned because the pawn was stopped. Wow, what a turnaround in that game.
By the way, do you think king e5 was the last move? Or did d6 resigns and the king was put to e5 to simply establish the result?
Tanya, what's your guess? Was king e5 just the result or the last move?
I would say it was the last move of the game.
Yeah, I think so.
King e5, you go d7, rook d1. I think it was just over.
Okay. Because in many positions...
put the
they'll-
king on
they'll-
e5.
Like sometimes there's a pawn on h7 and the king is on f6. And instead of going to g7, stop the pawn and goes to e5. And the game stops as a draw. And you have to understand that to register the result on the board, the king goes back to e5. So it's gone to g7 and then jump to e5. Is I think correct way to describe it. But anyway.
Alright, well, this round comes to an end, and we still have 3 more Blitz games coming up. We will go into a short break. Anand, thank you so much for joining us for these 3 games.
Thank you.
And once again, it's such a pleasure to have you here with us. So whenever possible, please jump in.
I'm happy to join tomorrow, but I'll watch you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this break. Chess India Blitz day 1, and the players are on the stage to start the action. Let's bring up our beautiful hall at the National Library of India here in Kolkata. What a day of chess we've had, Robert.
What a day we've had. What a day Praggnanandhaa has had. He's 5.5 out of 6. Clear first place, 1.5 points ahead of the competition. As we dive into the playing hall, the round 7 action has begun. So why don't we get in there and look at what the players are up to?
They're up to a lot. It is fascinating openings all across, and I think we have to start with the tournament leader so far, Praggnanandhaa, 5.5 out of 6, as you said. He's playing against Vidit Gujrati, who is currently tied for second and has had solid performance so far. This one's not going to be easy for Pragg.
And revenge might be on Vidit's mind, because in round 7 of the Rapid, Pragg did find his way through to a victory against Vidit, and then Vidit won those final 2 games. But I actually was curious, and I'm curious about your thoughts. Do you think the players think about that? Like, I lost to you just yesterday, now I need to beat you?
This is a 3-minute with a 2-second increment. I don't believe they have the time to go into that bit. Perhaps somewhere at the back of their mind, but with this fast play, it is speed chess at its best. It's all about what's going to be your next move, and that is the question for that bishop on b3. Do you allow the trades to happen? Do you step back to c2, trying to get that central d4 break in?
This is a big question, and right now Vidit is on the clock, and he just, I think, traded bishops. That's what it looked like he did. The queen comes out, so the d4 pawn push, not very easy for white to accomplish, because all of black's pieces are staring in that direction. And for Pragg, the question becomes, does he start playing it safe a little bit, or does he just continue to play with the same ambition and form he's shown in the first 6 rounds? Because when you have a tournament lead, sometimes in the back of your mind, it's not intentional, but it creeps in. Oh, I can just keep my lead. But that's a dangerous way to play.
It's a dangerous way to play, and it's one that the 18-year-olds just don't know about. Praggnanandhaa will play the position. If he gets the chances, he will take them with both hands. We see the queens have been traded off. Usually in these structures, openings, if black is able to get a successful d5 break in, you've solved all your opening problems.
All of them solved, because black will put a rook on d8, go for this d3 pawn. Just don't get your bishop trapped. The point of a4 is to play a5 to get at this bishop, but a5 played because the knight defends b6. You don't have to ruin your pawn structure. So this one looks solid into the endgame. Should we hop somewhere else just for a moment and then come right back?
Yes, you were talking about what's not looking safe. Arjun Arigasi's queen has gone all the way to a8. Let's quickly jump over to Arjun versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. I mean, isn't there supposed to be a black rook there?
There was a black rook there. I'm just trying to count the material. It's not a full rook. White has a rook for a knight, that knight on a6, and black certainly has compensation here. I think for Blitz time control especially, without a clear direction for the white king, some people would even take black's position here.
Attack against the king is the most difficult situation to face when you're playing with little time on the clock. So definitely initiative is of essence here, and we see the knight jumping in not only towards the center of the board but blocking out Maxime's queen from the rest of the game. Arjun meanwhile gets the castle going. I don't care what the eval bar says. I think for Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, he's feeling that he has enough compensation here.
And it was huge that he could take on b5 with tempo against that knight that was hanging on a6. Otherwise, he would not have been able to capture. The g2 pawn was loose. This looks like a position where Arjun, he is well ahead, but if black can strike with f4 at the right moment, the white king will feel vulnerable. So this looks great for Maxime. He continues to bounce back from an 0-3 start. Any other games?
He really does. Let's head over to Temur Rajabov facing the other Indian sensation, India number 1, Gukesh, playing with the black pieces in that one, and it looks like he's trying to get his central pawns going. But look at that activity of Temur's rook on the 7th rank. Knight e5 is a move that you always have to have in mind, but right now black's queen can jump over to d6 and neutralize the pin.
Yeah, hitting both the rook and the knight. So you take the knight on d7, I get your knight on e5. And this is similar to their game in the Rapid, where Temur sacrificed the pawn for the initiative. He went for activity, but right now it does seem like Gukesh, after knight d4, you have to watch out for one thing, but he goes rook c4, slides the rook into the white rook's path. This seems like Gukesh has seen the worst behind him.
Yes, and once those rooks get traded off, maybe Gukesh will be the one who'll start thinking about trying to push those queenside pawns. If you do go rook c4 and trade on black's terms, the black queen can jump over to c5. The knight can hop over to that c5 square, and you're already thinking about getting that passer moving. So Temur, his best piece in the position is the rook, and he says, I'm not trading that.
No way, especially because he wants queen g4 next, go after the e6 pawn. That's his compensation. So this one is interesting, but how is Pragg and Vidit shaping up?
It's still pretty level. It is that end game that we did leave it at, and we can get a quick update on that. It is the marquee matchup in this round. Praggnanandhaa 5.5 out of 6 with it tied for second. Can he leapfrog the standings? And there we see, even though the material is balanced, it is a kind of an imbalanced position with the bishop versus knight.
Yeah, and we have to prefer the knight and the king activity for black. The rook's doubled on an open line. Oh, rook e4. This rook is not protected, but there's no check. If this king goes to f1, suddenly knight e3 check. That's why the king couldn't slide to the center.
You've got to watch out for all those tricks when you're playing against the knight. That can be a nightmare, but with that rook jumping onto e4, he's looking at sliding the other rook to the e line. Rook e1, doubling up on the e file. Says, you've got the d line, I'm taking control of the other one.
The only good news about this bishop on a3 is it protects the b2 pawn, because black's idea is knight f4, knight d3, but you're not actually attacking anything. You need to get a knight to c4. That would be disastrous for white.
Did you say black's idea was knight f4?
I was, and I can't do it anymore. Unfortunately, that's what Vidit's going to say. But it's not clear how Vidit makes progress. He could trade one pair of rooks at some moment. Instead, he angles for f5.
He's trying to get f5 in after defending that pawn on g5. And both players under a minute now. It's still a very tense endgame. And white does take full control of the e-file. It might be time to start trading off a pair of rooks.
And it looks like Rajabov just blundered a rook. I have to pull up that game. Out of the corner of my eye, look at this. The queen went to g3 and rook takes a7?
What?
Is that possible?
Can we just do an action replay of that?
I don't know if that's really what happened. Knight f8. Is there really a way where Timur just blundered?
He did, and he just resigned.
Yeah.
Gukesh gets gifted a rook and a whole point on the spot. A complete miss by Rajabov, losing a rook. Wow. That was a win for Gukesh. We will take this in, but let's go back to our live action. Where do you want to jump to, Robert?
We have so many good choices.
Let's go
back to
Pragg.
Pragg, exactly, versus Vidit. Look at the progress that Vidit is making here. The rook came to e4, but the eval says that black is almost completely winning. Is that really a bishop?
It doesn't look like one right now. Black's 3 pawns on the queen side really tying that bishop down. It looks like a big pawn and not a bishop at the moment. He's essentially playing down a piece.
He is playing down a piece, and the knight goes back to e3, but these rooks on the d file now have open lines. One can go to d1, the second can go to d2, and this rook needs to stay put, but it's also almost trapped. This rook
Look at
moves.
this. Vidit playing with all his pieces. Gets the king to the center of the board as well. It does get a question mark, but I really like the move king f5. And now your rook comes in, and now you're forced to defend the e4 rook with that e2 rook. The e2 rook is overloaded, also stopping rook d2 ideas.
Yeah, and the thing is, for black, maybe g4, knight f3 at some point, setting up a checkmating net. Just trade rooks. If you are Vidit, this bishop cannot play in the game. And maybe if you're taking, you have knight c4. We talked about this idea, getting this bishop on a3, and at the very least, white can't move.
White can't move. You can keep that knight forever, or you can trade and destroy white's pawn structure. Right now, the rook is the piece that has to move. He falls back, not allowing black's rook to enter into the second rank. G4 played, getting more and more space in the position.
Rook d1, knight e5, knight f3. It's checkmate on g1. That's what's happening. You can't stop it.
And there is no way with that bishop on a3. There's just no way that you can fight it. It's a mate in 2. He wants to go rook h1 to try and stop it.
The only way, and wow, what a clever defense. But can he even just trade rooks and bring his king in? That should be a winning endgame. Knight e1, he wants knight c2.
He wants more. He can give a check and just gain some time on the clock and come back.
King e4. What's happening here? Knight f3 check? He does it?
He has to go back to g2.
And he can trade.
And now the king comes to d. You trade on b4.
Oh, he still wants the bishop trapped. He does not give the bishop any air to breathe.
And you've got king c4 coming in.
Really nice play from Vidit. He goes knight d2. He might go knight b1 first and then king to c4. But the point is, he's just winning the pawns on the queen side.
And look at that. Something just happened. Another illegal move.
An illegal move?
Praggnanandhaa is smiling.
Oh, he went king f1. But the king can't go to that square. Is that what just happened?
Oh.
Yeah, you see white's king on f1. It doesn't matter. I mean, the result is clear that Vidit is the one in charge, but it's a good laugh between the players.
Because Vidit's the one who made the illegal move in Tata Steel Chess India against Hikaru, and Praggnanandhaa there returning the favor and joining the ranks of greats for making illegal moves against Vidit. King f1, and you can see the smile on his face. He knows that the Indian fans will not live this down.
No, they will not. And just like Vidit's about to even up the scoreboard, now it's even 1-1 in illegal king moves in Tata Steel Chess. And I think for Pragg, he probably just wants to resign. Like, he'll make a king move, and then Vidit will quickly win this game just because it is a hopeless ending.
When you play an illegal move, you just know how few moves are really there on the board. White's king is trapped on the king side. All the action, the fire is on the queen side. If we can also have our analysis board, and there we see the king comes in, you can just pick up the c3 pawn. That's a free pawn. And now the c pawn will march down the board. And that's it.
They shook hands and Pragg just laughed. He just is like, how could I put my king on an illegal square? But look at that. Vidit wins, and it's 5 for Vidit, 5.5 for Pragg. Now we have a close race.
It's a super close race. Praggnanandhaa suffering his first defeat in the game, and Vidit, it was a convincing win from him.
It was. He's played great chess throughout this event, and at that moment where he played g4, it just felt like it was unstoppable. He created a mating net. White found the only way to stop it, but you stop checkmate, but you don't stop losing this endgame. The only way is to bring your rook back here, but as we saw, he checked, he brought his king in, and then at the right time, he brought his knight back, traded, and that was an easy win.
Really nice technique there, and we've had 5 decisive games, and those are the results that we had. And let's quickly take a look at some of the other games that we missed out on. But first, calling out the results here, Arjun Erigaisi scores his win against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Temur Rajabov lost to Gukesh. That one move blunder. We don't see that happen at top level chess.
Well, we saw Grishuk do that against Rajabov.
Ooh, knight f2.
Yeah, knight f2, and this again was rook f7 winning a piece. So that was a huge blunder from Rajabov. But shout out to Alexander Grishuk.
Ooh.
I don't know how many times I'm going to say, I think I have to focus on his game. Even you'll talk about some other game, I'm just going to focus on Grishuk's game next round because he's tied for second place. He has 5 points. He's a half point behind Pragg. He's crushing it.
He's crushing it, and he's been playing fantastic attacking chess. And the last game that he just won, I want to pull that up because the final position, we see White's rook trapped on b3. How did he make this happen?
And if I'm not mistaken, White's actually up a pawn in this position, but Black has the most dangerous pawn on the board. And if we just go back a few moves, it looks pretty level. White is worse because the bishop on a3 is in a bad spot, and we see how Black gets a passed pawn. But look at how quickly mistakes happen in Blitz chess. And rook b2 stops b4, or does it? You have 1, 2, 3 pieces covering the square, but after pawn takes b4, c3, the rook went up to b3, and the bishop slid into c2. That rook is trapped here.
That's actually a fantastic sequence of moves, getting this material advantage in, and that was it. Vincent resigned. Let's take a look at some of the other games that we did miss out on, because it was all action on the Pragg board. Nodirbek against Hari. The nightmare continues for Hari.
It does indeed, but for Nodirbek, who's had a struggle in the Blitz, he now gets up to 2.5 points. Whereas Hari's in the middle of the pack. He's quietly doing quite decently, but this final position...
3.5 points.
3.5, hit 3.5 to 6, and he unfortunately goes back down to an even score. But this final position, at least, is clear that White is up several pawns, and the passer is too quick. So I think Hari had struggled earlier in the game, losing material.
Yes, he did, and then Nodirbek managed to convert that one. Wow, and we haven't taken a look at Arjun versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. Arjun with a lot of extra material in that final position. How did we get here? Should we do a quick deep dive?
Let's do that, because earlier on it looked like a very adventurous opening stage where we had a Sicilian. And by the way, Maxime goes for knight c6 on move 2, no Najdorf. And we got to this position, so I'll just fast forward because it must be some kind of theory based on how quickly they played. Queen went out to f3. Queen went out to a3. I've seen this before. Yeah. The rook is stuck, so the knight can't be captured. And then at this point, bishop g5. What a idea this is. And f6 was played, but Tanya, what happens after bishop takes bishop?
You really are inviting a lot of trouble. I'm going to jump in with that knight d6. You don't want to come into the line of fire with that queen. King d7 is the only square. I can just take the f7 pawn and I can win the whole house, and I can even jump in with my queen to d6. I can do so many things here that you don't want to invite this.
No, no, no. And if the king had stepped into the queen's path, no matter where you go, knight takes c8 is a discovered check, so you win the piece back. So we did not see the bishop capture on g5, f6, and bishop d2 with bishop b4 to follow. This pawn is loose on d6, and so Maxime takes on b5, but after the queen takes, we saw the queen looking trapped over here, but Tanya, this is where we left it.
And we really felt that Black managed to create some initiative a couple of moves later when the f-pawn started advancing down the board, and we saw that happen as the bishop moved, attacking the queen. A nice little move there, targeting the d5 pawn as well.
It's interesting because that's the move that I would have played, but the engine doesn't like it, and I think it doesn't like it because queen c5 it keeps this queen trapped. I don't know if you have all the time in the world, but the queen is stuck in the corner. D5 is still hanging. Maybe that would have been better, but look at what I think Maxime missed. And then this position, it looks like you can't move your bishop because G2 is hanging, but if your bishop takes B5, this knight is hanging for free because the queen is on C7, the pawn is pinned.
Such a critical tempo to get that castle in, to get your king to safety, so that if you take on G2, I can sidestep with my rook, hit your bishop, and I'm winning your knight on the other move. And if you do save the knight, as what we saw, the king comes to safety and everything under control. Maxime tried to create his chances, chaos on the king side, but Arjun immediately finding the opportunity to trade off the queens.
And with the queens gone, there's no attack, and now it's just a matter of technique. So Arjun, it looks like he did not struggle very much. The end position is extra material. And look at that final touch, by the way. Bishop e6 check, giving up the bishop because rook e8 is a back rank ladder mate.
And that's a fantastic clearance tactic that we're seeing. So really nice awareness there, sealing the deal as soon as Arjun got the opportunity. And this was Arjun's win against Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. We've got another big round 8 that's about to come up. These are the standings going into the penultimate round of the day. Let's remind everyone the Blitz action continues tomorrow as the players will play against each other with reversed color, but we've got 2 more games for today. And Robert, I'm getting some news that we are getting not only creative play on the board, but our audience is sending some incredible creative answers for our contest of the day.
I love it, and there's still time to get involved, so please do send us your answers. Tell us your favorite player without telling us your favorite player. And you can get involved. Use the hashtag TSCI2023. And again, tell us your favorite player without telling us your favorite player. And it should be your favorite player here in Kolkata.
Yes. This is going to be a fun one, and we will announce our winner tomorrow, who wins a 1-year diamond membership on chess.com. So that's a cool prize, and we will bring up our winner tomorrow. Today it's going to be about who will win the next round 8 that's coming up. Pragg has slowed down.
He has. He drew in round 6. He lost in round 7. And the pairings for round 8, there are no easy ones. We keep saying this. But if we look at round 8 pairings, Praggnanandhaa, he's faced 7 of the other 9 contestants in the field. Now he has to play against Gukesh. So Praggnanandhaa gets the black pieces against Gukesh. That's the 4th matchup on this graphic. Tanya, any other of these matchups stand out to you? Because, well, like we say, everyone is great.
All of them. It's going to be a fantastic fight, but the one that you just pointed out, Gukesh with a big win over Temur Rajabov. Well, I say a big win, but it was really a big blunder by Temur Rajabov. But for Gukesh, he can start leapfrogging over the standings with this win. And Pragg, is he feeling the nerves after that loss against Vidit? It's a big one for these 2 players. And Alexander Grischuk against Nordebek. What a day it's been for Sasha. He's currently tied in 2nd place along with Vidit Gujarati. So big rounds all across.
Yeah, I want to watch a Sasha game. So that's what I said I'm going to do. I don't care what game you're looking at. I am going to look at Sasha Grischuk's game coming up because he's 5 out of 7. He's a 3-time World Blitz champion. The games will start in a few minutes. And I want to give a shout out to your pick to win this tournament because Arjun Erigaisi, suddenly he's 4.5 out of 7. He's only 1 point back of Praggnanandhaa.
If he finishes strong today with just 2 games remaining, he's going to be in the mix for that top spot. But he has to make sure to keep that momentum going. Let's bring up our live feed from the playing hall as the players will be walking in and taking their seat. And who is that?
I can't
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, center stage. And we got Nordebek as well, ready, waiting for his opponent. He will be facing Alexander Grischuk.
Alexander Grischuk, the name that we need to keep an eye on in this round, but Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, the name at the top of the rapid leaderboard when all was said and done. And here we see Vidit playing Vincent Keimer. Vidit won a nice game against Vincent yesterday. He'd like to do more of the same. And if he wins and Pragg loses, suddenly Vidit's in 1st place.
And this is such a close fight and a close pack at the top. A very different narrative from what we saw in the Rapid, where Maxime actually just ran away with the whole thing, won the event, 1 round to spare. But right now, the field is wide open. It is everything to play for. And this man on your screen, these 2 youngsters actually, for Pragg, he is on the lead. For Gukesh, he wants to get that lead.
Right, he needs to catch up, and if he wins against the leader, that's a good start. And this is the matchup that I really want to focus on because Alexander Grischuk, We know he's hilarious, but it's not hilarious to face him. There's nothing funny about it. He shows off his might, but somebody who's afraid of not a single player in the world is Nodirbek Abusatarov.
But you're right, Nodirbek is not laughing right now. He knows he's got a tough task ahead of him. And for Nodirbek, it has been a shaky day so far in the Blitz. He's on 2.5 points. Can he turn his fortunes around? It's go time.
It's go time, and Sasha starts with d4, as he's well known to do. And I'm wondering if we'll get a fun opening from these players, because Abusatarov, he's an aggressive player. And for Sasha, he's showed us that he has some new opening lines, some variations that are not frequent at the highest level. But so far, it is a quiet approach.
It's the Queen's Gambit decline, and now we've got a Tarash variation, which actually is one of the most solid positions to play with the black pieces, asking early questions in the center, and we see that the center does get dissolved often, but with this move, e3 has it transposed into a Queen's Gambit accepted position.
That's exactly where we are at this stage. A Queen's Gambit accepted. At some point, black can consider taking on d4. White will take with the pawn, giving yourself an IQP, an isolated queen pawn, but getting open lines on the c and the e file. So Sasha, he's taken a bit of a think, and he now has made his move to stop the pawn push to b5. But should we head to a different game before we get back here?
Let's do it. Let's head over to Praggnanandhaa against Gukesh. This is the one that the Indian fans are really excited to watch. I'm sure that they're torn to pick a favorite in this one, or to have a favorite out of these two players. Pragg, who's already in the 2024 candidates, and Gukesh, who's close to making it.
Yes, Gukesh can make the candidates with a good run, a good final stretch in the FIDE circuit, or by just winning the Grand Swiss in the Isle of Man. He's got his options open to him. Neither will be easy. But in this game, speaking of not easy, you see that the black knight is on c5, the pawn on a5 wants to go to a4. There it does. b2 to b4, the typical break. That is not easy to make work for white.
Not after black gets this hold with the knight on c5 and the pawn on a4. What white can instead try and do is step up with the queen to c2. You want to connect your rook, get your a1 rook, slide it down to the center of the board, and just make your pieces very harmonious. And then eventually you start looking for a way to break through.
And we see that white has all of his pieces on perfect looking squares, and the evaluation bar says level, because black, though a bit passive, look at these bishops, they're not really doing anything. Where are the weaknesses? Not a single one that I can spot. Black just needs to be a little bit careful, because the queen was in line with the rook, so that's why we see a trade. And then this knight may even drop back to e6. This bishop can choose a square on the diagonal.
And that's really important which square you choose, because white might decide to fall back to c3, keeping control of the diagonal, but a different approach by Gukesh. I think the point was that black could always offer a trade on the diagonal with the move bishop f6. So instead, Gukesh wants to keep all pieces on the board, comes back, retreats with the bishop, and now it's all about, can he get these pawns moving? Will we see an f4? Will we see an e5 opening up the d line? Or will we see a c5 at the right point? Pragg stops one of them.
Stops one of them, but the knight hops into f5, or should we call it a knife on f5. That's how it typically acts. It scares the black king. The g7 pawn is well defended, though. That the knight comes to c5. Maybe you're playing g3, and we could push f4 at some point.
I like it. And first Pragg, Gukesh, looking at rerouting that knight. He's also eyeing the d5 square. And I agree with you, Robert, that black doesn't have weaknesses, but it's just easier with white to jump around and find these squares for your pieces, which just makes it slightly more pleasant, as Raja says, to play with white.
It is, and this position is closed, but a game that is open is the game between Alexander Grishuk and Nodirbek Abusatarov. So let's go back to Sasha Grishuk's game. He is in second place, tie with Vidit Gujrathi heading into the round. So I'm pulling up the board. Tanya, this is a position where white's bishop stares towards the king side. This queen is on f4 for black. Both sides have their activity and some good things in their position.
One good thing for Nodirbek is that white really can't start pushing the e-pawn. The dream would be to get e5, e6 in. I really want to break through to your king, but that bishop on b7 combining with that queen on f4, knight f3 is always a soft exchange that will be in black's favor. So you've got to watch out before you play e5, but e5, e6 is on Grishuk's radar.
He would love to make that work. And look at these bishops for white. One aiming directly at the king, the second right in front of the king at g7. So black always needs to be careful. A knight can hop up an e5. Not yet, though, because rook d2 would slam on the board, winning material for black.
And that's because he just slid from the D1 file to E1, so he doesn't have control of the D2 square anymore. And right now it is up to Nordbeck to find a way to keep the pressure going, making sure that he doesn't allow White all this progress in the position that we're talking about with that E-pawn push.
And he's deep in thought right now because White has so many different ideas in mind. He played bishop f6, he stopped bishop to e5, but the queen was just kicked back. And Tanya, I really like your idea of e5 now. It does open up the bishop, so it's scary, but the pawn can keep going.
Yes, because now you have it with the tempo. The bishop on f6 comes under fire, but it's such a committal decision because of the reason that you're pointing out. You could be the one who would end up getting checkmated on that long diagonal. Will Sasha decide to go for it or take a more pragmatic approach here?
It's such a big choice because if he plays e5, his next best move is pawn back to g2. That's not allowed, unfortunately. You want to close the diagonal, you can't do that. So e5 may also run in some kind of rook e8 business. The queen is in the line of fire. So both sides here have chances of position with all three results on the table.
All right, well, while the players think about how to navigate this, do you want to quickly jump over to another board which has caught my attention? Arjun Argesi, Temur Rajabov. What on earth is Temur's rook doing on h5? He lost a rook on the last game. Is he going to lose this one as well?
He might lose his rook, or he might help deliver some kind of huge attack with this rook. I could see a knight g4 in the future. He starts with c5, which apparently was a mistake. But look at this diagonal. There's clear pressure here, and both sides are playing nervous chess.
Very nervous chess. He does clear up that diagonal. The dream is to get the queen into the game. What he wants is that eventually with a dark square bishop trade, your queen will go to a7 and slide into f2 all the way towards White's king. But look at that rook. It's in line of fire.
But it survives. It goes to g5. You play h4. The rook can slide up to g4. So you need to be accurate here. And Black may sacrifice an exchange at any moment. It's not just about winning material. It's about key squares. And if you ever play h4, Black takes over the g4 square.
Wow, Robert, I'm going to leave it to you, but I just, at the corner of my eye, saw Vidit Gujarati with a huge move.
Let's go.
That he's just made, and maybe this is the right time to jump into that. Look at that, the queen and the rook lined up. All you need is to open up the h line. He sacrifices the bishop. Do you have the guts to take that bishop with bishop f5 coming in, queen h6 coming in? I think the answer is no.
The answer was no, and I think this was a smart play by Vincent. He's trying to get more pieces back towards his king. A knight on e4 would attack the bishop on f6. So Tanya, the big question right now is, can Vidit just keep being in sacrificial mode? Can he try to blast open his king? Vidit, after all, Vincent has 7 seconds on his clock.
And Vidit, with under 15 seconds, it's a big decision to make. He goes for it. We've got bishop g7 and the bar approves.
Yes, well, bishop takes d3. It was a blunder, apparently, by Vincent. So a big mistake there. And we see the black king is wide open. We're about to see a checkmate against queen g5. And the king has to step on the h-file and just
move
bishop
your
takes
bishop.
rook.
And that's game over. That's checkmate on the spot. What a win by Vidit. From 5 points, he moves over to 6. Let's take a look at Pragg's position. The only one who can overtake Vidit at this point with 5.5 points. And I'm looking at the board. My first feeling is that Pragg is doing well. Look at the coordination between Pragg's pieces, the center mobility of the two pawns.
And an extra pawn. That e5 pawn is a plus for Pragg right now, and Gukesh down under 10 seconds. But I like this move c5. You're just trying to open up the position on the queen side, start causing problems for Black.
Open up what?
The position.
But is it going to be opened up
No.
anymore? Not with this last decision that he took with the move b5. And Pragg wants to open it up on his terms, but this allows a queen trade and a drop of an f5 pawn.
Yeah, he blundered. He forgot that the pawn on f5 can be captured. e7 rook is undefended. So now all of a sudden, we're going to see the position clear up, but this rook on e5 is still hanging. This is dangerous for Pragg.
Did you see that? After making that blunder, Pragg couldn't believe it.
There's going to be a huge threat. He was knight takes g4, but there's a bishop
just
g4
lose
move
the-
at the end.
Oh my god, he's going to pin the knight and win the knight.
Yes, bishop d4.
And look at Pragg, he's reacting. He can't believe the mistakes that he's making in this game.
No, it's something that's a huge surprise to see from someone of his caliber, and he's about to lose the knight in the center and lose his lead in the tournament.
And lose the second game in a row. He was on 5 out of 5, and it looks like Vidit Gujarati will be leapfrogging Pragg in the standings. It still goes on. White with an extra piece. Can he just pick up the f3 pawn? And he does it.
Yeah, you see Pragg, unfortunately for him, he is going to suffer another defeat. And it's tough when you're leading the tournament to feel that slip away. But we have to remind him that there's a whole nother day of Blitz tomorrow, even if he's upset in this game today.
Absolutely. And there we see handshakes. Gukesh does it. He wins the game with Pragg was in control. but just a couple of inaccuracies and it all turned around. We've still got games. Let's go back to the Alexander Grischuk against Nordebek board. You were excited about this one. It's a queen's pawn endgame where Sasha has an extra pawn.
It's good that we saved it for last because this game is going to go on forever. What move number are we on? We're move 56. This could go to move 256 because look at this position. White is up a pawn. At some point, you'll have to make a pawn push, then make another little pawn push. So how does White win this game, Tanya? That's the essential question.
And with just 4 seconds on the clock, he needs to do all of that with very little time, eyeing a break on a5 when you can trade the a for the c pawn. How do you even get your pawns moving on the king side? It is all about trying to create a passer. It's not going to be easy for White.
He played a5. We see the pawns traded off. If the b and a pawns get traded, then it's not really going to be easy for White to win with all pawns on the same side of the board. Ideally, you pick up this a5 pawn somehow. I just don't see how.
Well, the only answer to that is if your opponent blunders the pawn. Otherwise, there's no way. And there is no way that Nordebek will ever trade queens in this position. The king pawn ending would be lost. You're down a pawn. Need to keep the queens on the board. White has to create a passer on the king side, which will expose White's king to a lot of checks and a potential perpetual.
That is the problem. f4 at any moment opens up the second rank for checks, and that's why you see the king continue to hide behind the pawns. And if this white king could somehow go to a square like b2, then we could be telling a different story. If the white king went up the board this way, but so far away, you're never going to be able to cross the center.
And I don't think you were overstating when you said this game might go up to 256 moves, because this is going to be a long battle. And I like your plan. Try and get that king closer to that queen side pawn, but it's not going to be easy with checks, which could pick up the king side pawns.
There's just no way to go. At some point, you have to try, but the black queen will always be able to check down these open lines, like queen c3 check. And where are you going to go? King e4, queen c2 check. This pawn is loose in addition to the king being checked around the board.
And that's why he comes back. There was no way to move forward. You need to keep your king safe. Right now, no checks for black. That queen on b5 takes control of all the diagonal squares, and the b and the a pawn have been traded off.
Which means that it still, of course, should be a draw, but do not put the king on h6, exactly because of this reason. You can't go into a check. As you said, the king and pawn endgame is winning for white.
And now he has to try to advance the king side pawn, but again, that just leaves your own king so exposed. It's going to be a tough grind. And I have a feeling that Nordebek's going to hold this one, Robert.
But we're only on move 93, so let's calm ourselves down because we're in for the long haul. And the queen trade is offered, the queen trade is declined. He is going to play g4 at some point, but as you said, as soon as you push a pawn, your king is more exposed to checks.
Absolutely, he's going to use. He's going to use his king to defend the g pawn. Instead, just brings back the queen. Now the queen can slide to the f1 square, giving some nasty checks.
So they give a few checks from white, but as soon as black gets the queen to f1, then there is no hope. But this is what's happening. In order to stop the draw by checks, white has to drop the queen back. There's no activity to speak of.
And Nordebek on the screen looking confident that he does know what he's doing, combining the activity of his queen, making sure the king defends his weak g-pawn. He should be able to hold this g4 on the board. Really the only way to make progress for white. But the fewer number of pawns on the board, the closer Nordebek gets to the draw.
And let's imagine h5 happens and we get a trade of pawns. Then even the king and pawn endgame will be a draw. In fact, in many of these positions without queens, it still is a draw for black. So here goes h5. This should be a very simple draw at this stage, but mistakes happen, like we saw Nordebek win against Rajabov.
Well, he comes back with the queen, and if white was to trade on g6, black can actually go into the set king pawn ending like you were mentioning, which is still a hold. And that confident recapture by Nordebek.
He just wanted to make sure, and then when he figured it's a draw, white is bringing the king up though, so now you have to be more careful. Queen g5 check. We'll
king g7 is still a draw because black holds the opposition.
And they're talking to each other. That's what chess players do. They want to figure out where could I have improved, but the draw was agreed because of the opposition. So this is a basic elementary king and pawn game, but so important to know that if this king had gone anywhere else, just to show our newer viewers that if this king had gone anywhere else, white wins. If you go to f7, the white king goes to h6. The king goes here, then we can just bring our king to g6, for example, and as soon as your king goes, now we just escort the pawn to the other side.
Yeah, fantastic technique there by both players. Grischuk trying to convert a win into a win, but Nordebek holding confidently. It was the only draw of the match. And while the players were discussing after the game, I loved how the audience was applauding for the players for the big fight that they put on display.
Huge fight, and I think in addition to the audience clapping, Vidit Gujrati is clapping. And the reason why is with that draw, because Grischuk cannot score victory, he is the lone player with 6 out of 8. He is leading the tournament for the first time.
One game remaining for the day, and with it takes pole position. The other player who is applauding himself has to be Gukesh with that win against Praggnanandhaa. It puts him in the mix as well. He's in the center of the leaderboard. But there we see Grishchuk. You were excited to see Grishchuk in action. The draw still gives him 5.5 points in the race along with Praggnanandhaa.
And we see, as you mentioned, Gukesh and Arjun, who you picked to potentially win this tournament at 4.5, and down towards the bottom. Of course, some players are doing well. Taimur Rajab only 2 points. He did just score a win, so he went from 1 out of 7 to 2 out of 8. So his bad tournament got a little bit better. Vincent Keimer, Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So Maxime is at 3 out of 8, but he started 0 out of 3, so he has gone 3 out of 5 since.
Yes, and the fight does continue. We've got a big final round coming up, Robert. We're going to take a quick short break before that. In just a few moments, we will have action. But we want you guys to use this time to enter our contest, our giveaway. Don't forget to use the hashtag TSCI2023. Tell us your favorite chess player at the Tata Steel Chess India without telling us your favorite chess player here. So go on to Twitter. Answer the question in the most fun, creative, funky way that you can, and you could win a 1-year Diamond membership. We will be back with all the live action from the National Library in just a few moments.
Stay tuned, everybody. Welcome back to Tata Steel Chess India. It will be the 9th and final round of Blitz in just a few minutes. Tanya, we've had 8 exhilarating rounds. We had one leader through most of it, but now we have a new one.
Through half the tournament, but the last few rounds we've seen a big shuffle up, and it looks like the players have come with a mission, especially Vidit Gujarati, who had a reasonable performance in the Rapid. He's been playing in Kolkata at the Tata Steel from the very first edition back in 2018, yet to win an event. And I think he's motivated for this one.
He's certainly motivated. He's also been in charge of his performance, winning a bunch of games in a row. And here we see he does get the black piece against Nodirbek Abdusattorov. He beat Abdusattorov in the final round of the Rapid. That was a very nice game. We had Vishy and Rajabov commentating alongside us for that. But now in a Blitz game, he would like to get that win and end the day on a great note.
That was a fun one, and we also have another fun one where, as we see on our screens, Praggnanandhaa will be taking on his good friend Arjun, a matchup that we've seen so many times this past month. They've played each other in all the formats, starting from the World Cup to their battles in the Tata Steel Chess India, and that is our beautiful hall at the National Library, and it's go time. Let's jump to the chess.
But every time I see the playing hall, I just want to thank Producer G. You know, we get to see this beautiful venue with so many fans in attendance, and we just get to see all the players. But yeah, it is the moment to dive into the chess. They're making the moves, and we see these two friends, as you said. They also have been competitors against one another many times this month.
And they are inseparable, Robert. We don't only see them play umpteen number of times on the chessboard, but you bump into them anywhere in the hotel, lobby, restaurant, walking out, they're always together.
Yes, 100% of the time, and they're such good friends. But we have this matchup of players. I don't know if they're friends or not, but right now Vidit doesn't care. He just wants to get another victory. And what is this queen doing out on d3? That's my big question to you, Tanya. I don't really see openings like this where a queen just for some reason is up on d3.
If it was online, we'd say, wait, was that a mouse slip? You can see the queen on c2, but one second, what is it doing on d3? But very often the rook does come over to d1 to start pressurizing on the d line. And we see some trades in the center. The center has been dissolved, no pawns left, but in these structures, white has a slight pull because of that bishop on g2. That bishop is way better than black's bishop on c8, which does find it a bit of a problem to develop and come into the game.
And that's why Vidit volunteers to ruin his own pawn structures after a5, bishop a6. Suddenly the bishop does have a better diagonal to work with. So this game, the eval bars is equal, but they don't have the same plans.
They don't, but one plan that Vidit has is to bring that bishop to a6 to target that queen on d3 that you were earlier pointing out. You'd much want to have it on c2 or any other square. We will come back to this, but let's continue to take a look at some of the other action that's on. And we've got to go over to Praggnanandhaa playing with the white pieces against Arjun. They're best friends off the board, but on the board, it's full-on rivalry between these two.
And for Praggnanandhaa, he needs to get this win. I really believe that after these last 3 games, he needs to get back into that form that we saw him start the day with. So look at this position. It's even material, but the black king still in the center. Could he throw in a bishop h5 check? Because this e6 pawn is very tender.
Ooh, that requires calculation, and that's exactly what Pragg is doing as the seconds go by. Bishop h5. What happens if black captures on h5, puts in a g6 to hit that queen? He first starts with trading on f6, so making sure that when you go bishop to h5, there isn't a check, and it's still super complicated. If black was to pick up with the bishop, suddenly after the check on h5, you also get a clearance on the e line. Watch out, that e6 pawn.
Something's gone wrong for Arjun because this pawn e6, this pawn d5, they're both directly threatened. And so
Pragg, there should be something. Yeah, you getting
And we see him go bishop h5 check. Very, very direct play from Pragg. If the king goes to d7, the bishop slides back to g4, pinning this. Oh, this is just crushing. d5 is now hanging as well.
Pragg is not playing very friendly right now.
No, they may be great friends off the board. We have seen them everywhere together. Absolutely everywhere.
And he does throw in an intermezzo before recapturing that bishop on c3. Black will slide with that king to c7, and then white picks up the bishop on c3. You really don't have the time to pick up the pawn on c3 because then the queen jumps over and takes the other central pawn.
No, this is bad news. You don't want to have your king even be more exposed than it currently is. So a move like rook to d8 makes sense. And it's only one extra pawn. So for the time being, it's not game over, but it's clear that white has a huge advantage thanks to an extra f-pawn, a great bishop on e6, e6, and where is this black king really going to go? I guess a7 is the answer.
And even there, it wouldn't feel completely safe because of the B line that you just pointed out. Sure, you can hide, but how long are you going to hide for? Looks like Pragg's the one with the extra pawn and the compensation in this one. Robert, is this a good moment to just quickly jump to some of the other games?
Let's do just that, and all the games look exciting, but let's go to Hari. He is playing against Alexander Grishuk. Grishuk in that tie for second place.
Big one for Grishuk.
Yeah, he's playing some great chess in that tie with Praggnanandhaa. And in this position, we see opposite color bishops, but is there still any opportunity for black? Because the bishop on e2 is worse than the counterpart on b6.
And that's the big pull that Sasha has in the position. In these different color complexes, the black bishop can't be challenged. And you can see that white's bishop has no targets to really attack. It's all about king safety. I don't expect he will trade off the rooks. More major pieces get off the board, the easier it is for Hari to hold this. If Sasha's ambitious, he's going to just slide away with the rook.
And he plays g6, and what he's claiming is that this queen may get into the position, but I think a trade of rooks and queen to d3 at some moment. This looks very even, so maybe we should head on elsewhere. We'll, of course, keep everyone updated.
Let's go back to the Praggnanandhaa Arjun board. That is a big one, as is the Vidit board, which, by the way, is really heating up.
Okay, so we're just tuning back in. The queens are off in Arjun and Pragg's game, but let's go to Vidit Gujarati against Nodirbek Abdusattorov, because that game looks very messy at this stage, and it looks like Vidit just pushes pawn to c4, and the engine did not like it. White just stole a pawn.
Looks like an extra pawn, but you can start targeting it. Not so easy for white to actually defend it after a move like rook c8. Hitting that c4 pawn, I don't see a way for white to actually keep it alive.
Rook d4 might walk into knight c2,
Ooh,
a distraction tactic where the queen takes a free knight, but then the black queen takes a free rook that's sitting on d4. So you're right, Tanya. How do you actually defend this pawn?
It's a big question for Nodirbek, and I don't think he has the answer because he has slowed down right now. And what's the clock situation? Both players under 40 seconds. Also, Praggnanandhaa really close to wrapping it up in his game. If you want to quickly jump over to that. Robert?
Okay, let's go there. Looks like Pragg against Arjun. We've had a huge advantage for Pragg since the beginning. And the moves just came in. They came in flurry, but it looks like white is going to go after these queenside pawns, and then finally the extra pawn will run to the other side.
Notice how the f4 pawn stops the g pawn from advancing, so you're kind of fixed on the light squares on the king side, so those pawns will drop one after another. Bishop g8, I like that idea a lot. And there will be these unstoppable passers on the king side. A big update, Hari Krishna's Alexander Grishuk has ended in a draw. So the fight for now is between this game and the Pragg game.
Oh, and look at the move f5 played, and the engine didn't love it,
yes.
But it was a very good try. He wants black to take on f5, and he takes an h5, but look at Arjun's response, knight e5, watch out, rook c1, followed by knight g4, even if there's no pawn there, will win this rook, and so he slides back to e1, that was probably the only move.
Yeah, but that was precise, and he needed to be precise with all these knight tactics. That's what Arjun is relying on, the combination of rook and knight to create some threats on white's king. You can pick up the g6 pawn. You can't recapture. There's a rook e6 coming and picking up the knight.
But he missed it, and just to show that very quickly, the knight could not take the pawn because rook e6 check wins the knight. Instead, he goes f6, probably worried that the g6 square was defended. But now it's saying that black is right back in this game. Look at g3. He wants rook f2 to get behind the passer.
Yeah, you've got to stop that pawn from queening, and g3 also stops a lot of squares for the white king. So now the white rook is tied to defend the back rank.
That would be checkmate. If you lift that rook up somewhere, you lose the game. But rook f2 is met by rook f1. But then after a rook trade, the knight maybe go back to d7 and f8. But white is up white's not up any pawns.
He's not up any pawns, and that has happened. And again, Praggnanandhaa frustrated with his conversion here.
Yes, because without the extra pawn, he is going to take g3. That's the good news. But black may be able to go on the queen side at some moment. This could be dangerous, but you always have to watch out about this pawn pushing.
He brings the king back to stop the pawn from queening. It's the knight that's going to start targeting the queen side pawn because the knight's going to be super fast. Knight d5, knight a4 coming. You don't want to go knight d5 because f8. He chooses the right square, knight a4, and now you can't stop black from picking up the pawns.
But I guess white is going to use the g pawn and just run that pawn forward. He starts at g4. It's the right decision. This king may go to f6 depending on where the knight goes. If you take on a2, here it comes. Oof. King h7, g6, g7.
And that's just game over. You can't really stop it. You've got to find a way to give a check to white's king with your knight.
Oh, and that's the precise square. I think that Arjun thought he would give a check if the king went on h7, but the king goes to h6, so there's no knight check. That's game over. Pragg wins with the white pieces. Arjun suffers another defeat.
Wow, what a last position this was. King h6, a star move there. And now the big question is, with it, can he keep up his lead? Let's quickly jump over. He's got an extra pawn in the position, but it's all pawns on one side of the board, which makes it easier for the side on the defense, which is Vidit right now.
Yes, Vidit down one pawn, and the king goes to f8, so the black's pieces are on the right squares. And I just want to shout out Vincent Keimer, who for the second day in a row beat Gukesh in the 9th game. So look at this one. It's between Vidit and Nodirbek. And Tanya, it's an extra pawn for white, but that h2 pawn, the g3 pawn, those are going to be targeted.
And he first starts by targeting that bishop on e6 and creating a passer. So you've got to watch out. That pawn is advancing down the board. Under 10 seconds for both players.
And he gets the check-in. That's very useful. How does he stop it? Is e7 a threat? There's no useful discovery.
A blunder. What just happened?
Apparently there was a winning move for white, and that was not it. Oh, I see what it was. I'll show afterwards. But there are some wild tactics that were available to white there. And so it's hectic right now. And Vidit is on his last legs trying to defend the game. But this is our final game of the round. And to help us through this, we do have Praggnanandhaa with us. So first of all, congrats on your game. And second of all, can you help us through this crazy position?
Yeah, I don't understand what's going on, but... Oh, rook e2 is nice move.
Oh, knight takes f7, rook e7.
Yeah, it's hard now, yeah, because he can just keep on giving checks, and at some point you have to... Oh, it's still not easy.
He keeps going back. So is this endgame easy if knight f7, rook takes e7?
Yeah, at least it's easier to play with black, yeah? I mean, you can just play moves and it should be a draw, I think.
The bar is going crazy.
Knight c6.
And why can't white just queen here?
So I think that's...
Yeah, that's what black is hoping in this position.
And then you just exchange the g4
yeah,
pawn
I
and
try
it's
to
a draw.
exchange. It's very hard to win such position.
And that's it, handshakes. And Nodirbek takes the win.
Wow, so you know where that leaves you?
I'm leading, right?
Yes, you're back into the lead, Pragg. How do you feel about your play today?
No, I felt my play was really good, except that with game. Yeah, that game I think I did really play well. Even against Gukesh I played really well. I outplayed him and I got a very good position, just a pawn up. But then I just played this move e4.
Okay. Played e4. Or is it here?
Yeah, I went e4. I mean, I could just play any move literally. I mean, it just doesn't have any plan. Yeah, I can go queen f7, prepare e4. I think this is really good for black, close to winning. Yeah?
And we saw your reaction after all this happened, where of course you end up losing a piece.
No, I thought this g6 was really clever, and I get to this position, ef3, knight g4, knight e5, and I thought, okay, I'm getting a pawn. But then bishop d4 came, and even then I thought I have this one chance of getting king f6, but he's fast with bishop d3, king f4. But this was nice sequence, but yeah.
Not nice for you,
yeah,
unfortunately.
nice for me.
And so this game, of course, didn't go your way, but you were able to rebound in the 9th game against your very close friend. Is it easy to play against your friends?
Not really, but I guess we have to get used to it.
And this last month, you've had a lot of experience playing against each other.
I don't know. Actually, I've already tried almost every first move against him. So I was thinking about it, and I decided to go knight f3. Anyways.
Yeah, so we just caught the end of your last game there, and this was a wild one. You looked frustrated in this game too, like you thought you should be easily winning, and then
I missed a tactic. I think you can go a little.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a pawn very early on.
So you went earlier.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, somehow I messed up the opening.
Oh yeah, we saw. Let's just go through it.
Yeah.
Yeah, once you took on e6 and got that.
Yeah,
check.
I deviated with d5 from rapid game. Yeah, rook e1.
From the World Cup.
No,
from here.
Ah, yeah,
yesterday.
sorry.
So tell me where.
Yeah, here it kind of went bad for him because bishop c5, bishop f6. I'm just winning a pawn. That too with king on e8.
Right.
That's kind of the main thing. And yeah, queen f5. I thought I have to be totally winning at some point. Like queen c5, knight e6, fe6, and I couldn't find anything.
Well, this was.
Yeah, this I thought it's a pawn up, but okay, still game goes on. Yeah, it's very tricky with knights on the board. I mean,
And this game, I mean, it got very, very tricky along the way after the queens came off. It looks like white should be winning, especially when you were able to...
Yeah, I thought this I should just win. I can just push the pawns. But then I started to push it wrong. Yeah. H5, F5 was a very bad move. Knight E5 was very strong. At least, okay, in a practical Blitz game.
And here we were thinking you had the opportunity at some point to actually take on G6 when you went F6. Did you?
Okay. I missed that.
No
G6
time
check.
remaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Okay,
had-
we didn't
yeah.
have any.
But at this point, did you still... You know, I think a lot of people in the audience are always curious, like, what goes through your mind at this point? Were you thinking that you were winning, or you just thought it was messy?
I just have to make moves. There is no time to think.
And, I mean, this part of the game where... you
Yeah,
went with F1.
honestly, I didn't know what was this leading to because I thought I can win G3, but he's also getting counterplay with Knight C3, Knight A2. I mean, I couldn't calculate anything. I was just making moves.
Yeah.
Is there any difference?
Yeah, I think it's like
King F8, King G7. No, I just missed it.
well,
You had
goodness.
7 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, this is very tough for me.
I think that everyone can be forgiven for their mistakes in Blitz, and this was the final one. where he took
Yeah,
the
I had a
point.
very similar game against Duda last year in Rapid. It was a bit different, but it's kind of the same. Like, I go and pick up all these queenside pawns, and he has this F7 pawn and tries to get G4. And it was very critical that he had to put the king on the right square. So I just pushed G4, G5 first, and then decided to spend time here. And okay, I thought,
And this was that moment where you need to put your king on the right
yeah,
square.
yeah. He didn't. He made a mistake there, and I got chance to make a draw.
But you found the right square. in
Yeah,
this
I'm
game. But does that help you? Like, were you actually thinking about the endgame? I know you said you're only thinking about the moves.
Yeah, but I could remember that some parts of endgame, so it kind of helped me to make this G4, G5 very quickly because I can decide my king position later.
Yeah.
How do you decide your king position? What's the thought process? You've got all these options. So how did you come to the conclusion that king h6? Because everything else draws.
Yeah, actually when I played G4, I kind of saw king h6 already because king f6 there's knight d5 and king h7 there is some check coming knight g5 or something. So king h6 was the only square, there was no check.
There's good intuition there. And Pragg, you started the day invincible. 5 out of 5. What were you feeling at that moment? It felt like you're just unstoppable.
Yeah, I felt the game quality was also very high. And then I kind of started to miss few things. Against Grishchuk, I blended with pawn with d4. And then I had to sit and defend. But I felt it was... overall, it was a very good game. And I think game against Blitz was the key game. Like, I felt I really didn't play well at all. He outplayed me like from start to finish. He played really very good game, and then I made an illegal. I mean, this tournament, I don't know. This tournament has a curse of illegal moves, I think. Like every tournament, there is at least one illegal move. In 2019,
it.
yeah, and then 21, I made an illegal move, and 22 last year, I think someone made an illegal move. I can't remember right now. But 21 also, Nihal made an illegal move. I think Gukesh also made an illegal move. And yeah, this year I think I'm kind of continuing that history.
But it sounds like you took the lead.
Yeah.
You have 2.
Yeah, now I have to.
We saw you and Vidit laughing about it.
Yeah, that's what I was laughing about. Okay, game was anyway lost at that point, but I was just laughing, thinking about it. I mean, too many illegal moves here.
But after the illegal move and the loss, you end with a win and are in the lead. Does it feel nice to finish day 1 as the sole leader?
Yeah, I mean, losing this game would have been very bad, so winning this at least makes me feel good.
It was really quite an impressive performance. And now there's another 9 rounds coming up tomorrow. So the tournament is far from over. Just tell us a little bit about looking ahead at tomorrow's day.
Yeah, I think there is still a lot of games. Nine games is a lot, and there are just like a lot of players also fighting for it. And anyone who's like 2 points or 2.5 points behind can easily catch up. So it's very important to kind of stay focused and not to lose the momentum is key.
Yeah. And you had a fantastic start today. In the end, you bring your lead back. So well done today, Pragg, and we wish you all the best for tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
Big day coming up. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
thank you.
for
Thank you,
joining
Pragg.
us.
Wow, I'm just, learning my lessons from him about trying to remember some key techniques in the end game. But when all is said and done in day one here in the Blitz tournament from Tata Steel Chess India, it is Praggnanandhaa's name alone in first place. Vidit and Grishuk, they're very close behind. But then there's a big gap between third and fourth place.
Right now, it feels like the fight is between the top 3 players, right? But this is Blitz. And 9 rounds of action, it can be a completely different story in the first 3 games that we see tomorrow. Anything can happen. We've seen it in the past. The players, the shuffling up of the standing, and it all comes down to what form the players show up tomorrow.
And look at somebody like Maxime, right? He was 0 out of 3. He finishes 4 points out of 9. So he went 4 out of his last 7 games. That shows that he started feeling it. And if he could take that into tomorrow, suddenly he also becomes a contender because everyone plays everyone else. Yes. So you have a chance to beat the players in front of you. And Pragg, he recognized that. He is mature at this stage where he said, players, even if they're 2.5 points behind, I don't think he was singling out Maxime. But players like that still can win this tournament.
Yeah, he said it himself, that you have to keep the energy going, keep the momentum going. Anything can happen. The players have a lot to fight for. We might even see more illegal moves.
It's also funny that he was keeping count of everybody else's illegal moves. I knew of Vidit's. That one was viral, very famous. But I didn't know about the others like Nihal. So for Pragg, it was a great start. I mean, he was proud of his play, as he said. Then he started losing a couple games, and you can start feeling like it's a bad day, even though his result was still good at 5.5 out of 8. Like if he lost his first 2 games and then went on the winning streak, it's the same score against the same set of opponents, but just emotionally feels different.
Yes, and for Pragg, winning that last game is also so important psychologically. You want to end the day on a high, getting ready for that for those next 9 games. And by the way, shout out to our chat, who actually did predict that at the end of the day, of this day 1 of Blitz, it will be Pragg who will end up on top of the leaderboard.
I would say I'm surprised, except you put me on the spot and made me pick a winner. And the tournament's not over, but I did pick Praggnanandhaa. I thought that his form was really good in the Rapid. His score wasn't at the top of the standings, but there was something about the way he played. I thought that he was very convincing in many of his games. So he took that into today. The first 5 rounds were extraordinary.
Absolutely, and we're getting some extraordinary answers on our contest of the day. So let's bring up our giveaway question one last time. All of you have until midnight today to get on this, to win that 1-year diamond membership. Tell us your favorite chess player from TSCI 23 without telling us your favorite player. So send us your creative answers, make it fun for your chance to win a 1-year diamond membership. You can use the command TSCI on chat for all the details. All the best for that. It's going to be a fun one.
It certainly will be. And for those of you who may be a little sad that today has come to an end, we will be back tomorrow, but an hour earlier. So everyone needs to remember that. And also maybe they should enjoy some thali, have a good time, just like we've been doing here.
You're talking about a thali, Robert? I think everyone in India is giving you a big thali. By the way, thali is applause in India.
It's also the delicious food I had.
It is.
Wow. My stomach was applauding after I had the thali. So it was a fun time. We had a nice meal at the restaurant. But yeah, the applause, I think, for the players.
For the players, what amazing chess we saw today all around, which means we have a tight pack at the top of the leaderboard going into the final day of the Tata Steel Chess India. It has been fantastic. Super excited to see what happens tomorrow as the players play 9 games of Blitz. We will be back with all the action. See you then.